Did you cut the sleeves off of your sweatshirt?
No. I
Oh,
just
you
rolled
just
them
had
up.
them rolled up?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we are live with another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. We have a good show planned out today. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to start with the Packers. So we're going to start with recapping the Packers' win over the Rams. We're going to let's talk about the Packers offense first, like we usually do. Jake, what did you want to talk about with the offense? Actually, you know what we should start with? Let's give our 3 stars before we start talking about the whole game. So let's do that
Okay.
first. Let's get that out.
3 stars were difficult, man. It was very difficult for me this week. I thought the team.
My top 2 were easy, but my third one was tough.
Yeah. See, I agree with that. My top 2 were very easy. The third one, I still gave my third position to 2 people, but I have an honorable mention. I'm not going to get too deep into the honorable mention. When we talk about offense, then I'll talk about him. It's an offensive player. Wink, wink. My third one is Randall, Cobb, and Devante Adams. Cobb only played the first half, but he had a great first half. 4 catches,
minus the fumble,
yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, I was gonna say that, man. I actually was at the game. Me and your buddy, his name's Alex Harlow. He actually works at Parker Johns. He got tickets a couple of days before. And, I'm sitting there and I'm sitting next to the guy next to me. And, he's a season ticket holder. He's a really, really nice guy. And I'm like, man, I was talking about the podcast. And I gave him a card and he said he's going to follow. And I was like, man, I've been waiting for Cobb to be back there in punt return. We're just going to call fair catch anyways. He's usually pretty sure-handed. Sure shit. After I say that whole spiel, he fumbles the damn thing. I'm like, oh, my God. And then I told him, when he came out of half, I said he's probably not playing the second half. He's embarrassed. He muffed that punt. Probably not real. But Devante Adams, he's just Devante Adams. Nothing else needs to be said. He's the best in the league. My number 2 was Rasul Douglas for obvious reasons. He had 6 tackles, 3 solo, 4 passes defensed in this one game. He had 4 passes defensed. The Packers as a team had 8, so he had half of them by himself. He obviously had the pick 6, which was really, really the play that put the game away. I don't know if anybody listens to Wayne Larrabee on the radio, but they were doing the playback because I was stuck in traffic, and he called it a third quarter dagger when Rasul Douglas got that pick 6, and I was like, damn, he pulled out the dagger in the third quarter, baby. I was like, that's pretty sick. It pretty much was the dagger. Our defense was fired up the whole second half. And my number 1 star, we'll get into more stats later, but Aaron freaking Rodgers, dude. He had a great game passing, but to hear that rushing touchdown that he had was off schedule, that he wasn't supposed to pull that, and then he runs it in for a touchdown is absolutely the most Aaron Rodgers thing I've ever heard of in my life. He runs it on Jalen Ramsey of all human beings, one of the biggest shit talkers in the league. And he's a 37-year-old white dude, and he runs past him and gets in the end zone
with a broken toe,
with COVID toe. And
doesn't have COVID toe. Knock it off.
I know. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you saw that picture, but it said this has to be one of the coldest photos in NFL history. And it shows Rodgers with his hands behind his back and Jalen Ramsey looking helpless on the ground. I'm like, that definitely is one of the coldest photos of all time. NFL history easily.
Matt Ramage actually shared a version of that picture where it's all blacked out except for Rodgers and Ramsey. It looks pretty sweet.
That's nasty. Did you hear? Okay, so he did a podcast talking about Ramage, and he asked A.J. Dillon a question. He was on Cheesehead TV.
Yep.
And he asked A.J. Dillon, he was like, A.J., I got to ask you, what does it feel like to run over a grown man? And if anybody hasn't seen that, go check that out because his explanation is pretty funny, actually. But I just wanted to bring that up because you brought up Ramage. But I'm ready for your 3 stars.
All right, so actually A.J. Dillon is my number 3. I was really torn between, the wide receivers like you mentioned and A.J. Dillon. And just because his stats don't jump off the page, but what did jump off the page is his 25 touches in a game that Aaron Jones played. Now, we knew going into this that Aaron Jones was going to be limited probably on a snap count, but it became the A.J. Dillon with Aaron Jones mixed in as opposed to the Aaron Jones with A.J. Dillon mixed in. Yep. And I think as far as improvements are considered, A.J. Dillon deserves a lot of credit for how much he's improved over last year, not just as a thumping runner, which we already knew he was, but as a blocker. and as a pass catcher.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to give A.J. Dillon some love for the things that he does outside of just running people over, which was probably one of my favorite plays of the game. My number 2 is Aaron Rodgers for the same reasons you mentioned, and my number 1 is Rasul Douglas. Rushman, I saw somebody say Eric Dickerson as well as Earl Campbell. I don't know if he'll be the number 1 from this point. When Aaron Jones is fully healthy, I would expect him to get more into that number 1 role. But Matt LaFleur has talked about it. They don't have a 1 and a 2. They have a 1A and a 1B.
Play the hot hand, basically.
And A.J. Dillon he's a second round pick, so he's living up to his draft capital a little bit this year. So let's talk about the offense first. And what did you want to talk about with the offense? I mean, can't really say many bad things about it, except for I'm excited for Josh Myers and Bakhtiari to be back.
Yes, sir. Lucas Patrick is I actually like Lucas Patrick.
Okay, so just because you brought up Lucas Patrick, I want to talk about this.
The choking.
How the hell did Aaron Donald get away with that? How did he get away with that?
You want to hear the worst part, dude? So obviously, I just said I was at the game, so I was watching the whole thing, and I'm like, "Oh shit, Donald's getting into it, right?" And you see him doing all this.
He got into it with him a couple plays before that, and then
And then when he was coming off the field, he turned around completely and was saying shit to all of our players. I was like, I looked over at the gentleman next to me, and I was just like, "How do they flag taunting all the time?" And then Aaron Donald is able to say whatever the hell he wants to any human ever. I don't understand. It's like they just choose the flag who they want.
And then put his hand on Lucas Patrick's throat. That was the messed up part for me.
Yeah.
That's messed up that they let that go. And there was a ref right there.
I know. And
it's not even like he grabbed him by the face mask. He grabbed him by the throat. That's so messed up.
I did a close up on the picture, and I'm gonna save it for if we play the Rams again. I'm gonna be like, never mind. I'm not gonna give away, but I have a good tagline to put on there.
Aaron Donald gets mad when he plays the Packers because the Packers can usually game plan him out.
Yeah,
Packers did a good job of it in the NFC the NFC playoffs last year, and they did a good job of it on Sunday. Obviously, they used multiple guys because one-on-one you're not stopping Aaron Donald, but obviously that frustrates him to the point that he does shit like that.
Right. So, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I like Patrick a little. I actually like Patrick a lot. He's a guy that came from the practice squad and earned his way up to getting real playing time a couple years ago, and he's got Rodgers' trust. He's been on our team, been around our team, been through some bad losses, some big wins, road games. Like he's been through it all. Something that I really like is that he's a little bit dirty. And not dirty in the sense of like stomping on people like Ndamukong Suh or choking people. He'll just get under your skin, and he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up, man. And you need that on your old line. When you have a guy like A.J. Dillon that's punishing people run after run after run. And actually, Patrick got interviewed on the radio. Again, I was stuck in traffic, and he was getting talked about, and he said, and they asked him a question. He said, when I block for 33, I know that if I make my block and he makes one guy miss, he can go 70 yards. That's exactly right. He said, when I block for 28, I hope that he's running through my hole so I can hear him take somebody's soul. And I'm like, that's exactly it. A.J. Dillon's going to take your soul. He's going to run through you. He's going to run exactly through you. And then as soon as you're trying to catch your breath, you got to catch Aaron Jones. And then on top of that, you have to worry about the best wide receiver in the league and the best quarterback in the league. There's no argument that Rodgers is on fire right now. Absolutely not.
Yep.
Right now, best quarterback.
Dude, that's why like when we were losing to Minnesota and Buffalo's lost some games, Buffalo was my Super Bowl pick before the season started.
Yep.
Looking at the NFL, like the Packers have dealt with some injuries and are still winning. Like the Packers get fully healthy. This NFL is wide open.
Oh, absolutely.
It is wide open. There are no clear-cut favorites in this NFL.
Absolutely. There's only two things that's going to stop. Obviously, injuries, and the injury bug has been hitting us like crazy.
Every game.
Yeah, Rodgers talked about it on Pat McAfee last night, and then I would say special teams. Special teams had its ups and downs,
So,
obviously, but it's getting there. I see the turning. I see the improvements in certain areas, like the punt coverage and downing the ball on the one, and the kick coverage is still a little wishy-washy at times. It's getting there.
so with the special teams, this is what I said about Sunday was the punt coverage and the kickoff coverage improved. It wasn't great, but it's improved. And the punt coverage and the punting was really great. Our return games in the punting and kick returns were bad. Obviously, we had the turnover. Didn't really get past the 20 on any kickoffs taken out of the end zone. And then, mostly fair catching as far as punting is concerned. But Bajorquez is a stud. He's back to his studly punting ways. And
he had the 20 on Sunday, dude.
And EQ deserves some credit as we're talking about special teams and about the offense. There was the punt that got called back, and then the Packers got a 5-yard penalty out of it, so they had a first down. But it was a 4th and 4 punt, and EQ went and he made a tackle. He got underneath the guy and went and made a tackle at the 15-yard line, something like that, I want to say.
I think that was Cooper Kupp he tackled, too.
I don't know if it was Kupp or if it was Corey Koski's younger brother. Shout out to former Brewer. But I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter who it was. That was a great play by EQ that doesn't show up in the in the stats at all because the play didn't happen because of the penalty by the Rams that gave the Packers the first down. But I saw a couple of really nice plays like that by the defense. But let's keep talking about the offense for a little bit, and then we'll talk about the defense. So
we got a couple little nuggets here, some important nuggets to show here. I wanted to say this stat to show how great Aaron played on Sunday. The longest run for the Rams was 7 yards. The longest run for the Packers was 8 yards. Everything in that game was earned. It wasn't like we were just running through giant holes. That 8-yard run, by the way, was the one where AJ Dillon was carrying 3 other human beings.
Yeah. He falls forward every single run.
Oh, every single time. The other thing about AJ Dillon, the reason I should have put him in my stars. He came out that first drive right after halftime was absolutely massive. That
was the AJ Dillon drive. I have that in my notes as the AJ Dillon drive.
8 touches. 8 of the 13 plays were AJ Dillon. And he scored the touchdown.
Dude, you see him snatch ankles on that screen that he had?
Yes, dude.
Oh. That's like, dude, you're 700 pounds. Like, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Man, your lower body's so damn big. How you moving it like that? Right. The one thing I wanted to ask you is, did you see the robot that they did?
Yes, I have that video saved. I'm going to share it on the page this weekend.
Oh, man. What a robot, dude. They're so good at it.
Dude, Josh Diamond is really good at that.
He is. Yeah, Rodgers and Tate talked about it last
year. Yep.
It's funny. No, but A.J. Dillon was absolutely tremendous. And I'm sure everybody saw the stat of Aaron Rodgers versus Jalen Ramsey on Sunday. But I'm going to repeat it again. He was 7 for 7 when targeting Jalen Ramsey. He was 5 for 5 when targeting Devante Adams against Jalen Ramsey for 41 yards and 3 first downs. Also, he ran for a touchdown against Jalen Ramsey. So, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey, Devante Adams, Jalen Ramsey. I think we win that one. I think that debate's pretty much over with, in my opinion. The first play, when Tay caught the ball on him and juked him into the next universe, I was like, oh, he's in for a bad.
I wrote it at the beginning of my notes with that drive, and at the end of the day, that Devante Adams is better than Jalen Ramsey, and it's like Devante owns him. Yeah, like Jalen Ramsey shuts down DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Devante Adams owns Jalen Ramsey.
You want to know what the difference is for me personally? Because DK is obviously a physical specimen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, DK is still a young player. He doesn't have that mentality. He doesn't have that up here.
Yep.
So when Jalen's talking to him, DK's not a dog. Jalen is a dog. So when he comes at him, DK kind of goes down a little bit. Devante Adams is a straight-up dog, dude. You're not going to tell him what you're going to do to him.
You're not even going to touch him.
He's going to be like, listen, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and ain't shit you can do about it because I have Aaron Rodgers throwing to me. and you're pretty much screwed at that point. Devante's like, right there. Rodgers on target, on time. What are you gonna do? The only thing you can do is grab him and get a
Dude,
flag.
Rodgers dropped like 8 dimes on Sunday, like
Dude,
absolute dimes.
That pass he threw to Cobb, where Cobb juked that guy out, and the two Rams took each other out, and he ran forever.
Yeah.
That was that 54-yarder.
Yep.
Dude, that was only Aaron Rodgers.
Dude, so I know there was a couple places that talked about it. Rushman, yes, definitely. I feel confident on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, 4th and short. Yeah. Just handing the ball to A.J. Dillon and letting him bowl through.
Yes. John Kuhn, Jesus Christ.
The play where they ended up getting the long gain to Devante Adams, I think it was a 3rd down play, and they motioned Josiah DeGuara across the formation out to the outside of Devante Adams, which pushed all the corners one spot over. That's the kind of stuff that the pre-snap motion that the Packers have used a lot, and with Matt LaFleur being the head coach, that's the kind of stuff that came with Matt LaFleur, that pre-snap motion, being able to identify the coverages and then getting mismatches. And after that, it was just Devante up, over, out, up the sideline, boom, 41 yards. Like, that's when you look at it and you can see it after it happens and it looks easy. That's the kind of stuff that Rodgers and LaFleur are doing before the play even happens.
Yep. Well, there was another play with motion too, involved Randall Cobb's 27-yarder. He motions from the right side, goes all the way across. Devante Adams runs a deep post route, which takes that linebacker who was supposed to have responsibility for Cobb, takes him completely out of the picture, and now Randall Cobb's all alone.
Rodgers just dropped it right in there.
Yeah, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers, dude. I could talk about Aaron Rodgers forever, dude. That guy is freaking incredible, man. I absolutely love that guy.
I'll have to get some more Aaron Rodgers videos next week. I just want to throw out there that when Aaron Jones got injured, that I threw out that Randall Cobb might get some time in the backfield. And then they ran where Rodgers was in the shotgun, and he had Randall Cobb and Aaron Jones next to him. This is at like the 5-yard line. And AJ and Aaron Jones split out wide, and Cobb stayed in the backfield, and then Cobb ran the little out and up and scored the touchdown. Like, I just wanted to toot my horn a little bit just because I said that Cobb would be used in the backfield. But and that's a lot of versatility that they're getting out of guys, even Randall Cobb, who's a veteran.
I love that play that the Rams threw where they had Cooper Kupp throw the pass. Mm-hmm. Almost a touchdown, by the way.
Almost.
I wish the Packers would run that with Randall Cobb. Throw it to Devante.
Dude, I was going to say, I wish they'd run that with Devante. Like, if Devante gets a pass behind the line, everybody's thinking wide receiver screen. Right. Like, if you can get, like, let's say if you have Devante and Lazard on one side and you put MVS on the other side by himself and he's got a one-on-one, and you run a wide receiver screen to Devante and let MVS just streak down the middle of the field and just say, hey, Devante, chuck it and see if MVS can catch it. Like, I'm here for it. Like, I'll try it. I'll try anything once.
Back in like 2017 or whatever, and Devante was throwing a bomb. He threw it about 45 yards, man. That's a pretty good chuck, man.
I mean, I'll take a chance for it. I mean, why not? I'll try anything once.
Yeah, it can't hurt, man.
I mean, it could, but I mean, we're playing the Ravens, Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit yet, right? I think I have that in the right order.
Yeah, we put the next game.
No, it's Baltimore, Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit.
No, the next game is Chicago.
Or Chicago, Baltimore, Minnesota, Detroit.
Yep.
Okay.
No, there's one.
No. Cleveland on Christmas.
Yep.
So I mean, you could try it against really any of those teams.
Pull it out last week.
Yeah, do it to Detroit. It'll definitely work against Detroit. They don't stop running noses even. So
you can't just pull it out on Christmas. Oh, baby, imagine if that baby connects on Christmas. The world will go crazy.
All right, so talking about the offense, we need to talk about Mason Crosby. I want to know what you think about Mason Crosby. Talk about it.
I don't think everything that's happening with the missed kicks is all on Mason. I mean, he had one blocked. He's had one where, it wasn't snapped the right way and the ball's not placed the right way. Like, there's a whole
He's hit the crossbar twice.
Yeah, there's a whole mechanism that has to happen. I think Crosby is still good. I still believe in him, but I don't know. It's starting to get tough, man. And you know that's my boy. Like I love Money Mason, but after this year, even if say we go and win the Super Bowl, it might be time to get a new kicker.
Say what you said again, but emphasize the first part of what you said.
About if we go win the Super Bowl?
What you said before that, you started with one phrase that is key in there. After this year.
Oh yeah, after this year. Yeah, he's not getting replaced right now.
They're not making a kicker change in the second half / last third of the season.
Dude, we're in the middle of a race for the number 1 seed. We're not going to get a new kicker.
It's not.
That's ridiculous.
We're not Minnesota.
Yeah.
I saw somebody compare Mason Crosby to the J.K. Scott situation, and it's like, okay, J.K. Scott does not have near the track record that Mason Crosby does. Doesn't have near the body of work that a guy like Mason Crosby had. This is not remotely comparable situation.
Dude, Mason Crosby's made game-winning kicks for us in humongous situations.
Yeah.
Countless times bailing us out, where Rodgers just like, if I get a field goal attempt, we're going to win this game.
Yep.
And Mason Crosby's been there, and we can rely on him. Mason's a good kicker. He's a good vet. He's been in almost every situation. And I would like to point out that it's very tough to kick in the cold, okay? Just like it's hard to throw a football in the cold, it's hard to kick in the cold. So, and that's how our fan base works. Every miss that he does now, everybody's just going to be going ballistic, right?
Yep.
Rightfully so in some situations. Like if you miss a short one, rightfully so.
Right.
But he's not going to be 100 for 100. He's not Justin Tucker. There's
Right.
one Justin Tucker. But with that being said, he's not going to replace this year, if that was the point you were trying to get out.
Yes, they're not even going to look at it until the offseason. All right, so a couple other guys I want to shout out. Obviously, we know Devante is Devante. He caught 8 out of 9 targets for 104 yards.
Yep.
We talked about EQ on special teams. I want to give EQ credit for making a really nice third down catch. That had been kind of the Randall Cobb role, was making the tough third down plays and being there. It seems like Lazard is still either bothered by his injury or maybe he's just regressing. I'm not sure which one it is. Could be both.
It's got to be injury.
I feel that they rushed him back from that week. He missed one game. I feel like they rushed him back to play last week. I wish they would have just given him that. I wish they would have just given him last week off, and then he has the bye week too.
I think this bye week's gonna be good for him, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good for literally everybody.
Yeah.
We talked about being excited that the Packers have a late bye and not like a week 5 bye, so we'll see if that benefits them this year. And also with the, you mentioned the Mason Crosby thing not being entirely on him. That new long snapper that they tried out, or they're trying out, he's been there, obviously. But with that too, be glad they're trying this stuff out in week 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, not week 15, 16, 17.
And now 18.
Exactly. So, I mean, these things are happening in the middle of the season, and the thing with it is the Packers are still winning games.
Yeah.
They lost one game, a divisional game, to Minnesota on the road. And that was a winnable game.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal. And, they lost without Aaron Rodgers, and they lost the first game of the season. There's a lot of complaining going on in the fan base for a team that's 9-3.
Spoiled brats.
That being said, is there anything else you want to talk about on offense?
Well, I just wanted to say this bye week that's happening is the latest in franchise history, if you didn't know that. Also, I have 2 little stats I'm going to be using as my stat of the week. I'm changing my stat of the week because I just found these out. Sunday was Rodgers' 30th career game with a pass and rush touchdown. That's the 3rd most in NFL history. And also, it was his 60th career game with at least 300 pass yards and multiple touchdown passes. That's the 4th most. He's behind 3 Hall of Famers: Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning. Those are three guys that if you're mentioned in there with passing, doing all right. Oh, send them to you? All right, buddy. Hey, you message us. We'll invite you to all the groups. Then you can take care of all of our light work.
All right, so just want to throw out a couple things. Rodgers back-to-back 300-yard games on his bad toe, so I don't think it's bothering him as much as people want to think that it is. And I want to give some credit to MVS, who looks like a better route runner the last couple of weeks at least, and he's using his hands more than his body. So I hope he continues that improvement. That's what I want to see, is that continued improvement. I want to see him stack on it and keep it going. All right, let's talk about the defense. I came with a visual aid today, so I'm going to talk about my number one star, because talking about Rasul Douglas, I saw some people complain when it was brought up, and it was that the complaint was that Rasul Douglas gave up the touchdown to Odell Beckham Jr. If this is one thing where Troy Aikman actually said the right thing, which was weird, but this touchdown isn't on Rasul Douglas, because this is a zone play, so Rasul Douglas is expecting safety help over the top, and you can already see it in Adrian Amos's body language here, that he's kind of in like the, oh shit, I got to turn around and run. So Adrian Amos is thinking that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to run this red line route. He's going to run a slant route. So Adrian Amos tried to jump the route, which is that blue line, and tried to beat him to the spot. And then what Odell Beckham Jr. did was run the yellow route and obviously sprung him for the touchdown. So that green line is where Rasul Douglas is thinking Adrian Amos is going to be. And Adrian Amos tried to make the play, which something that we always say is you don't fault effort. So Adrian Amos tried to make a play. It ended up being a big play for the Rams, but that's not on Rasul Douglas. That's, unfortunately, it's on Adrian Amos, who's one of my favorite players. That's just, and Adrian Amos is just trying to make a play in that situation. It's not like he got caught in the wrong place, which, I mean, he did, but it was for a reason. He was trying to, jump a route to make a play and get a stop. So, what's up, Tim? Welcome. So that's what I wanted to say about Rasul Douglas. He's the man. Jake mentioned, the Packers had 8 passes defensed, and 4 of them were Rasul Douglas. He's people are talking about him as Packers free agent signing of the century. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, that right now, as far as a GM of the year, that it's pretty much between Gutekunst and New England's GM.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Arizona, I guess, but as far as GM of the year is concerned, I mean, Gutekunst has to be in there, especially when you consider some of the rookies that they have that are contributing the way they are, like Royce Newman, who is playing a lot. Josh Myers, obviously, Eric Stokes being our number 1 cornerback with Jair out, and then, adding Rasul Douglas, adding Devondre Campbell, who's one of the best linebackers in the league off of free agency. I mean, grabbing Whitney Merciless, who unfortunately got hurt, but I mean, keeping this team competitive with mid-season free agent signings and finding these guys, trading for Bajorquez. I mean, grabbing Randall Cobb and bringing him back. Gutekunst should be in consideration.
Those are little under radar moves that nobody really thought would make a big deal. They're like, oh, the Packers traded a 6-rounder for a punter, big deal. And then he has 3 punts inside the 20 in one of our biggest games of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's big time stuff. And a lot of times
it matters.
This game wasn't as close as the score. I don't care what anybody says.
It wasn't.
But a lot of times in these type of games, when you have 2 heavyweights going at each other, sometimes it turns into a field position battle. So having
exactly,
yeah, humongous, Man, oh man. I saw a comment. I was reading something on Facebook, and one of the Packers fans commented and said, I heard all offseason, during the preseason, that the Packers don't play starters in the preseason. Little did we know that we were actually playing all of our starters in the preseason.
Except for Jordan Love, but he did start a game. So, I mean, you can throw that out there.
I was like, that's pretty true. You get all these defensive players and, practice squad players that were just getting reps on reps on reps in the preseason. And now man, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, at what point our depth is just going to be superstar, dude. Think about this. All these
It's gonna
guys
be.
are playing
Yup.
on the road. They're playing division games. They're playing game of the weeks against the Rams at Lambeau. Like, and then all of our superstars are going to come back because we're missing big time players, man. All
Yup.
the superstars are going to come back, and then we're just going to be a well-oiled machine. Rodgers isn't going
We
anywhere. Okay, with everything that's
we're
happening,
getting
Rodgers is going nowhere.
potentially two for sure that I would say are at the best of their position, and one who I would say is among the best at his position. We're getting back the number one cornerback in the NFL, the number one left tackle in the NFL, and I would say probably a top 5 pass rusher.
I'll give you that. But then on top of the top 5 rusher, you have Rashawn Gary, who is just going
Dude,
crazy.
if we have Rashawn Gary, we win that Minnesota game.
Oh, 100%, dude. And I was going to talk about that when we talk about defense, how immediately he made his impact by forcing a fumble. That was absolutely, he set the edge immediately at that point, and the Rams are kind of like, no, not going to happen. So, and I also wanted to say this because, people are beating up Adrian Amos for giving up this touchdown, and they learned that it was zone defense. Well, how come nobody's talking more about that 4th down that he stopped?
Absolutely. Yes, he did. I'm glad you brought it up because if you didn't, I was going to. He made a beautiful play on that stop. That was a gutsy call by the Rams running that in their own territory, and Adrian Amos came and filled the hole perfectly. That
was just stupid by the Rams. You're down by one touchdown in the first quarter, and
in the 30 on your own. Yeah,
that's stupid. That's just stupid.
Yep,
I agree. I thought they were just going to try to get us to go offsides.
Yep.
That's what I really thought when they were out there. I was like, no, you're not going to go for it. I was like, they called fucking hike, bro. What? There's no way. And he just whooped, and I was like, oh, yeah, baby. That crowd was loud as hell, man. The crowd was loud the entire game.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was absolutely great game to be at. Great game to watch. I mean, we saw pretty much everything. Turnovers, sacks, long touchdown passes. We had disappointment.
And a pick six.
Yeah, picks. I mean, we had all the highs and lows. That was an awesome game to watch. We saw Rodgers dimes. Like, that was an awesome, awesome game. I think the Packers, right now, if I was going to rank them, I'm trying not to be biased, but as a total team, there's very little weaknesses on this team. I would say just the special teams, and that's only from time to time. It's not every time they're on the field. I would say the Packers are the most complete team right now.
I agree. And what I would also throw in there is penalties. The Packers kind of kill themselves with penalties at times. But with that, we talked about it. It's definitely seems like the most Super Bowl ready team that the Packers have had because you've given Aaron Rodgers a defense.
They are very good, in my opinion. They get stops. They can get off the field. They get turnovers. And honestly, I saw the stat about the Patriots on their win streak, how many turnovers they're causing, and I'm just like, man, I can't imagine how many turnovers the Packers have dropped in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. Or had taken away due to penalties.
Yeah, that too.
So, Rushman said it. He said nobody should be crushing Amos because he's been a star and some big wins. Now, this is something that our entire show is partially about. Is don't take a sample size that's this big and make a judgment this big.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do the knee jerk, the small sample size. That's not how sports work. That's why analytics are such a big deal in baseball. You take all this data and you make it into, this is what this guy can be. You don't take, he was bad in this month of this year, so that means that's what he's going to be. That's not how sample sizes work, because I saw this happen with Eric Stokes. We talked about Eric Stokes last week. He had one bad play where he got caught in between Thielen and Jefferson, wasn't guarding either one of them, and ended up giving up a big gain to Justin Jefferson. Yep. He had a couple bad pass interference calls in the 49ers game, one of them which I don't really agree with because Deebo Samuel is falling down and Stokes put his pinky on Deebo's shoulder. So looking at Eric Stokes' body of work, he's given up a couple big plays and 2 touchdowns. But you look at all of the things that he's done and some of the receivers that he's gone against. Like you look at Cincinnati's wide receivers and Pittsburgh's wide receivers and Seattle's wide receivers and Minnesota's wide receivers. Like, I mean, you look at you got DeAndre Hopkins put a really good move on him. That's DeAndre Hopkins. That's the second best wide receiver in the NFL versus a rookie cornerback. I mean, you can expect that once in a while. To give DeAndre Hopkins the credit there, don't throw Eric Stokes under a bus.
I got an argument for you. I got an NFL discussion argument. I was hoping you were going to bring up D-Hop again.
Okay.
I'm ready to start the argument of Cooper Kupp being the second best wide receiver. I'm really ready for that conversation. He is a.
I will have that discussion with you next season if he does it again.
The only reason I'm saying it, not just because of the volume that he's putting in, he lines up in a lot of different areas, man. He's lining up in the backfield now, slot, left, right. It doesn't matter. He lines up in a lot of different spots.
So two things. One, I could see saying that this year because Hopkins has missed some games. Mm-hmm. And two, what I would want to see before I'm ready to make that statement is to see Cooper Kupp be a goal line threat.
That's actually a very good point.
He can score touchdowns because he can score from a lot of places because he can get open a lot of ways. Similar to kind of how Randall Cobb always finds the soft spots in the defense. Cooper Kupp is good at that. But you're not throwing a corner fade to Cooper Kupp. You're not throwing a one-on-one jump ball to Cooper Kupp. So for a goal line threat type thing is something I would want to say with that. But I'm willing to listen to the argument. So
that's fair. Those are all very good points right off your head.
All right. So I want to say the defense, that third quarter was fantastic. Yeah. If you had to take a stab, how many yards you think the Rams got in the third quarter?
Well, they didn't get a lot.
It's not very many.
I'll say 25.
29. You were close. Good job. 29 yards.
The only reason I'm saying that is because I know the time of possession was absolutely dominated by the Packers. We had the ball for almost 40 freaking minutes, dude.
So, I think the Rams had 3 possessions. We forced them into 2 3-and-outs, and then their last drive was carrying to the end of the third quarter. And they ended up punting. So 29 yards in the third quarter for the Rams. I mean, the defense was just great. The fact that the Packers, if anybody still thinks the Packers are a bad rush defense based on the way that they were in the past, have not paid attention to the Packers this year.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the longest run by the Rams was 7 yards. That's case in point.
Damn, Tyreek Hill or Hopkins?
Take Tyreek Hill or Hopkins.
He takes the top of every defense. I don't know. It's a good argument. I could listen to that.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I personally would have Tyreek Hill number 3, but and then we got to talk about Kenny Clark again because he is a monster. He's an absolute monster.
He's a stud, bro.
6 tackles, a sack. I mean, he's a monster.
Bro, I kept saying, we need a Kenny play. We need a Kenny play. All of a sudden he gets a sack. I'm like, that's my Kenny play. Let's go. Me and Alex are hugging about 1,000 times at the game, dude. That dude he's a problem. At this point, you just call him a problem. That's how you know you're good.
So Rushman said this Packers defense is complete, the best he's seen in a long time. I agree with that. And then throw in the fact that we're going to get guys back. Like, we're looking at a secondary that's got Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas, Darnell Savage, and Adrian Amos. And then you're going to put in Jair Alexander on that? Dude, if you're looking at a secondary of, say, 3 cornerbacks of Jair, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas, Tampa Bay does not have an answer for that.
I wanted to point something out that me and you were talking about, by the way. So, remember when Stokes got drafted, right? And we learned, we were reading the stats about how he had a couple pick sixes. And we were like, oh, you put Jair on one side, and he's the shutdown. And then, Stokes can be the pick 6 guy. Now, Stokes is the shutdown over there. And Rasul Douglas is the pick 6 guy. Oh my God, what are you gonna
Dude,
do?
I told you, Eric Stokes' profile is similar to Jair. I talked about this with some people in some groups that Eric Stokes' profile is similar to Jair Alexander, where eventually after he gets some more experience and he doesn't get those penalties and some of the being caught in the wrong place, the wrong time plays, he's not going to get thrown at because his coverage is good. That's the type of corner he is. He isn't the type to bait you into interceptions, the way like a Xavier Howard does, or like a Trayvon Diggs. He's more of a shutdown corner that makes you throw at other people. That's how Jair does. That's why Jair doesn't have the high interception numbers, because nobody throws at him. So you're looking at Jair Jr., and then Mr. Pick Six. So Stafford has lost 3 games in a row, and he's thrown pick sixes in all of them. Bro,
you see that stat? Stafford has 3 straight games with a pick 6, and Rodgers has thrown 3 in his career. Oh, that's sick. People were saying that Stafford was as good as Rodgers after week 1. I was like, oh,
yikes.
Holy hell. I had an argument last year before the season. A guy named David Morris. I don't know if you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big time Lions fan. He makes a lot of crazy picks. I had an argument with him about Stafford over Rodgers. He legitimately thought that Stafford was better than Rodgers. And I was like, Jesus, is this how they make you guys in Detroit? Because this ain't a good look, buddy. Better than Aaron Rodgers? That's crazy. But
Pat, I'm glad you brought up Kingsley Keke because I'm very excited that he's starting instead of Tyler Lancaster. I like Kingsley Keke a lot.
And I was going to say, because Rushman said we're going to have 5 or 6, I was going to say there's still a spot for Kevin King, no matter what people say. There's still spots in the field where Kevin King is absolutely fantastic. He's great when he gets his hands on you.
Yep.
When he can get his hands on you and feel you and know where you're going, then he's great because then he can kind of.
That's why I like using him in the red zone.
Yeah, there's less space. He can't really get burned in the red zone. But man, this defense has all the potential in the world. And the craziest part is we're still led by Aaron freaking Rodgers, dude. This feels like one of those years that if we don't win the Super Bowl, it really feels like a failure.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. It feels like we should. That's what it's starting to feel like to me,
And you to your point, it feels like a complete team because what we were missing last year was inside linebacking.
Oh my God.
Chris Barnes played well in this LA game.
He's been
I know. He came off of 2 really bad games, and now he had a really, really good game. Chris Barnes had 9 tackles and a pass defensed in this game. Chris Barnes, he looked like a middle linebacker that we thought he was going to be coming into this season.
Bro, he made one really amazing play that nobody's talking about. He was the only one that recognized the screen. He had 2 linemen against him and the running back.
Yup. He swam under it. Yeah, dude.
Oh my
yes. God. Yes. That play was beautiful.
I was like, holy shit, what a play, man. That was a play. Because he could have got yards, man. Got trucked out.
Douglas did that too. Douglas had a play like that too, where they tried to set up a tight end screen to Higbee, and he ducked under a lineman and went and made the tackle. So do not try to run a screen play against the Packers. It will not work.
No, Tampa's different this year, man. And Tom's one of those guys, you don't bet against him because you never really know. He's won in almost every situation imaginable. I mean, up to this point, when you play 1,000 years, you get a chance to do everything. So you don't really want to bet against Tom Brady. I hate that guy, but I respect him.
Yep.
So you don't want to bet against him. But I'll tell you what, I think the Packers are much more well prepared for that moment this year.
And I think that goes along with my statement of saying the NFL is wide open.
Tell me if this is a good comparison to you. So the Bucks lost 2 straight years in the playoffs, right? And then the third year they won the title. The Packers lost 2 straight years in the NFC Championship game. Is this the year that we finally put it all together? I don't know, man. And the Brewers have lost a couple years in a row in the playoffs. Yeah. Maybe next year will be the year they put it together too. I don't know. The Bucks are looking to go back to back. I mean, we got a lot of things going for us.
So one of the last things I want to throw out before we switch to the Badgers is LaFleur has coached 44 regular season games, has not lost back-to-back games.
Yeah, that is an absolutely insane stat.
That is ridiculous. And we had this discussion in one of our group chats. I will riot and start cars on fire if Matt LaFleur does not win Coach of the Year this year.
It's going to be him or Belichick, dude. I'm telling you. I told you that the other day.
Oh, my God. Belichick is like 2-4 at home.
I know, but he's doing it with a rookie quarterback. You got to take that into consideration.
I don't give a we are doing it without our number one corner, our number one pass rusher, our number one lineman, our number two lineman, our number three lineman, our running back for a game, our quarterback for a game, and we are 9-3.
Hey, I'm not taking anything away from the floor. I'm just playing devil's advocate at this point. And Belichick has the history, so I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if it was him, but it should be LaFleur at this point.
I would be willing to give New England the GM of the year and LaFleur Coach of the Year.
That's fine. That's fine with me too.
All right. So do you have anything else you want to say about the Packers before we move on to the Badgers?
Let's get healthy and let's run these mothers out the building. That's how I feel.
All right. We will be back with a preview next week. Obviously no bye no game this week because of the bye, so there's no preview this week. Yep. But we're going to welcome in our buddy Mike. We enjoy having him talk about the Badgers. He was really active when we did our Badgers primer, so I wanted to give him the chance to toot his own horn a little bit as we talk about the Badgers. But so they announced, the Big Ten did. They announced the first teams and the second team, third team, honorable mention, all Big Ten, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to do report cards. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about this Minnesota game. And unfortunately, it was the first play of the game put a bad taste in my mouth, and it never went away. And it's because of this. So looking at this play, Colin Wilder was ejected for targeting on this play. Jake and I talked about targeting earlier this season, and unfortunately, the discussion is rearing its head again. And it's because of this play. This is literally the first play from scrimmage. Colin Wilder makes a really nice tackle, a nice play, a hard hit, looks like a clean hit, and he's flagged for targeting. I can't believe that they can't go into review and say there's no malicious intent here. He attempted to make the play the way that he's supposed to. What else do you want from him? You can see it in this picture that he's leading with his shoulder. He's turned his head away to not make the play with his head. I mean, I don't know what else you can expect from a DB in this situation when you can see that the wide receiver is crouching his body down. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I don't understand what else you can do.
Okay, I'll take this first, Mikey, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you.
First thing I'm going to say is, do they ever call targeting on an offensive player? Never. And they put their head down all the time. Imagine a Braylon Allen, who is enormous, 240 pounds, puts the crown of his helmet down, and he runs somebody over. They're going to call a flag on him? Absolutely not. That is bringing fans to the game. That is selling tickets. Point. That's money for the NCAA right there. Secondly, this guy is not a defenseless receiver. The targeting rule should be for defenseless receivers, okay? He's not defenseless. He had enough time to make a football move, which is two hands on the football, head down, protect himself. He had all the time in the world to protect himself. It's just a bang-bang play. When you go over the middle, the safety's supposed to make you hurt, okay? That's the whole point of a safety, is when you go over the middle, I'm going to smack the hell out of you, okay? And if you come over here again, I'm going to smack the hell out of you again. That's what you're supposed to do. Colin Wilder did his job in this play. He was in the right position. He was a little late. They gave up the first down. But I don't want this to be called a targeting. The guy caught the ball. The guy hit the guy with the ball. That's the end of the story. That's the only
how is he supposed to look at a wide receiver as he's making a play with his shoulder? Like they're not owls. They're not giraffes. They don't have a way to see that a wide receiver is ducking. Looking at this wide receiver, where is he supposed to hit him? Where?
You hit him, man.
You can't hit somebody between the knees and shoulders in a space this big while they're curled up into a cannonball. I mean, otherwise what you're doing is you're telling guys if you can't hit in that area, then you're going at knees. That's worse.
Yeah.
Or you're diving at somebody's shin. You're going to break somebody's leg or tear somebody's ACL that way.
Well, you can't do that in the NFL. The Tom Brady rule. Tom Brady tore his ACL against Kansas City first game of the year a while back because a rusher dove at him and hit him below the knee.
Dove into his knees.
Yeah. So you can't do that anymore. Mikey, what's your opinion? What do you think?
Yeah, so I just think it just goes back to how inconsistent this is.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it started last year, and it needs to be reviewed again in the offseason because whether it's the NCAA or the officials or whatever, because this is one of those calls that changes a game. Colin Wilder is our defensive captain. Like that clearly affected us throughout the game, as you can probably tell. This was, just a bad omen from the start. I was so crushed when this happened. But as far as the actual play itself, I thought, call me biased or whatever, but I think Colin Wilder defended this perfectly in his position. He's leaning with his shoulder. What else do you want to have happen here, in my opinion? But no, this call has been so inconsistent, for going on the last 2 seasons now. It still needs to be corrected. It happens on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it didn't cost us a game or anything, but it definitely had an effect on our defense, I think, ultimately throughout the game. So this was definitely a game changer, no question about it. It needs to be reviewed consistently, like time and time again. Like it's never like, I don't know if we're ever going to get this right. There was even another play during this game. When the batters are on offense, I don't know if you saw the clip or not. I think it was in the second half. Danny Davis was going for a similar route, like a crossing route to the middle, and he just got absolutely annihilated on his helmet, and that should have been a targeting call. So to me, it's just inconsistently called. It needs to get way, way better ultimately, and I was very upset about this, but what can you do at this point? But I just thought it was complete garbage.
I think what they have to do is when they review this, because they review the targeting plays, is I think they have to be able to at least try to determine intent.
Yeah. Because
like his helmet hits Colin Wilder's shoulder pad. That's on the receiver who's ducking to prepare for the contact.
Correct.
Colin Wilder is doing everything that he's supposed to in this play, and as he's going to finish the play, like I said, they're not owls. They can't turn their heads all the way around to see what the wide receiver is doing. And even if he could, looking at where this wide receiver is, where do you expect him to hit? So that's if they can look at it in a review and say, his intent was to make the play with his shoulder, and the wide receiver, the wide receiver's motion caused him to make contact with the helmet. Something like my dad just said in the comments, they could call it a penalty, but not an ejection-worthy hit. Like, I could totally agree with that. Because now Colin Wilder is a senior. And now this is his last regular season game, and he had to watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
And there were several plays in this game where it's like, wow, the Badgers could really benefit from an experienced safety in this situation. Oh, they lost him on the first play.
Yeah, that was a bad omen from the start. It was a real head scratcher to me, and it was a huge loss throughout the game. So it needs to be consistently it needs to be reviewed again because it's affecting. It affected us. It's affected other teams in the past, obviously, and I don't know if it's ever going to be right. I hope it is one day, but
we talked about it earlier.
They're not going to get 100% right. But if Tyler keeps talking about putting it to review, that's the only way to get this right. That's the only way to get close. And if you can review this and you can understand this is a football play. This is two guys making a play, catch, and the safety coming to make a hit. It's a football play. That happens about 25 times over the course of a game, of one single game, and then you look at how many colleges there are, D1, like 130 or something like that, 140 maybe. How many times is that happening per week? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's happening all the time. You can't blame Wilder for this, man. He didn't do anything wrong.
Let me throw one more thing out to you. He's not launching his body either. Both of his feet are still on the ground. So he's not launching his body either.
That's why I'm saying it's a football play. He's in a defensive stance. He's like, you're going to go right there, and that's where you're going to sit. And he made the tackle. That's it. That's all that was. It was just a regular football tackle.
It happened so fast, too. Like,
Dude, my stepson does this to our neighbor every fucking day. You want me to call him? Jesus. Seriously, they break those little plastic helmets, man. It's crazy. Good thing they're only $2 feet.
Rush, man, we're gonna talk more about the season as a whole than we are gonna spend talking about this game. But one other thing I want to throw out with this game, I don't like complaining about officiating. I don't like doing it because ultimately I believe you should do enough things to make plays to win games. But it happened to the Packers in the NFC Championship game, and I feel that it happened in this game is a really bad pass interference call. It might be kind of hard to see on the screen, so if you're watching this, if you can turn your brightness up or zoom in. But what I did here is I took a screenshot of this play where Caesar Williams is called for a pass interference call. Now, this picture is a wide receiver for Minnesota with both of his arms extended about 75% of the way in Caesar Williams' chest, while Caesar Williams is off the ground, pushed to the ground, and then called for pass interference. You can see it even with the blurriness of this picture that Williams is looking for the ball. I absolutely baffled how this play could possibly be defensive pass interference when he gets shoved to the ground and is looking for the ball.
Yeah, that was another head scratcher too. I was definitely I was yelling at the TV after seeing that. At first, like when it first happened, I was like, okay, what? Come on.
I'm like, oh, here we go. That's offensive pass interference.
And then just looking at it, man, defender literally did nothing wrong at all. Like, I don't know what else he was supposed to do in that situation there. So
honestly, in this situation, I'm not even calling for this, that it should have been an offensive pass interference. I would have liked to just see nothing called here because they're both looking for the ball. Mm-hmm. Like there's contact between both of them. I just don't see how you can call it a defensive pass interference.
Yeah, I agree.
All right,
it's just a call that didn't go our way. I was taught growing up that usually they even out, but obviously in this game, calls didn't even out in our favor.
All right, so I don't know how much you guys really want to talk about this game. I personally don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because I want to talk about the season as a whole more. For me, just the big takeaways were the run defense wasn't its usual self. Braylon Allen wasn't his usual self. Graham Mertz was his usual self. He made one bad decision that was an interception, and he made some nice throws. So I think he continued his improvement, but just one mistake. The Badgers have good linebackers. That's about as much as I want to say about the game. I don't know if you guys have a lot of takeaways that you want to bring up about the game.
Last week we were previewing this game. The first thing I said was the quarterbacks in this game were going to decide this game because both are below average to mediocre at best, right? Mertz at his best, he's mediocre. He doesn't make mistakes. He makes a few nice throws. He runs the offense, and he hands it off a whole bunch of times, and we get a bunch of yards, right? Tanner Morgan on Saturday was absolutely lighting us up. 11 of 16 for 199 yards. He averaged 12 yards a pass through that touchdown, towards the end of the game. I mean, Tanner Morgan played well. He played like the 2019 Tanner Morgan. They really didn't get a lot of the running game going, but because Tanner Morgan was throwing the ball so well, I think that opened up some more running lanes for them because we weren't able to just stack the box. If Morgan was missing some of those throws, I think that it would have changed things a little bit more. But, yeah, Allen only averaging 2.8 yards a carry is just – that's crazy to me. How you stop a truck after 3 yards. Crazy.
I think it had a lot to do with his ankle.
Yeah, and Ferguson only had 4 catches for 27 yards. That's our guy. We got to get him going. He's a guy that has to, and I absolutely mean this, he has to get 8 to 10 targets a game. He's just that kind of a player. He's very, very talented. I think he's underrated, in my opinion, by a lot of people across the nation. A lot of people are going to see Ferguson in the NFL next year. They're going to be like, oh, man, where's this guy come from? Oh, Wisconsin? I think he's that kind of player. He has great hands, improved blocker. Like, I'm a big fan of Jake Ferguson. So I think he's going to pop up on the scene next year and do really, really good in the NFL. He's got to get more targets in our bowl game. We're probably going to be playing like the Outback Bowl or some bullshit now, but it is what it is. We always play the damn Outback Bowl.
We'll be in the Tostitos Bowl.
Yeah, here's a kind of good bowl game.
Right.
But because we were kind of good. But other than that, I mean, Minnesota played well all around, in my opinion. Other than those two, controversial plays, Minnesota played pretty well. They played like a 7-4 team that's, pretty decent. They hung tough against Ohio State early, first game of the year, but Minnesota is not that good. Wisconsin should have won this game. It is what it is, man. Mike, do what you got, buddy.
Yeah, so I think like as a whole, we couldn't get off the field defense, even on defense. We just simply could not get off the field when it was, there's a couple times when we held them, I think, to like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10. I think I remember 3rd and 12 specifically that Tanner Morgan completed a big pass on us. But I think, collectively, our defense definitely was not the best. Granted, we had the pick 6 return for the touchdown. But other than that, like, it seemed like Minnesota was able to like convert important 3rd downs, and we could just not get off the field. It ended up taking off a bunch of clock. We weren't the sharpest defensively that day, like at all, with exception of that pick 6, just simply because we couldn't get off the field. But we gave up a lot of big plays on the pass. Tanner Morgan, if you look at his stats throughout the whole year, this is probably his best game all year too.
Yep.
And he had great games in previous years. Like I remember like 2 years ago in Minnesota was like 10-2 or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
He was throwing
people
the ball.
thought PJ Fleck was going to be an NFL coach.
Yeah. About that, but no, Tanner Morgan definitely has some skills. I'm personally glad he's gone after this year because he could sling it. So no, we just couldn't get off the field offensively. It was a shame to see, we couldn't not get the run game going. Just looking into it more, Minnesota did have a record for stopping the run going into this game, even though I was still hoping our O-line could step up to the challenge. But, it's a shame that couldn't happen. But, no, Braylon was definitely slowed down, but I think that's mostly due to injury, especially in the second half. And, I would have liked to see – I know Mertz had a couple nice throws in the second half, but I would have liked to see him take over a game. We didn't really see that happen in the second half, and I was actually fairly disappointed. Now you can say, was it the play calling? Was it this, and that? But I think collectively Mertz had a subpar year. I think, the writing is kind of on the wall with that. He showed flashes, but I was looking forward to him taking over this game in the second half because I knew he had the capability to do it, but it had a sour taste in my mouth, especially that second half with how things played out.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. You talked about the defense wasn't the sharpest, and, there's a lot of areas where they could have improved. It's kind of a combo question, I guess. Do you think that it's more on Chris, for not having them ready? Or do you think the players are kind of looking past Minnesota and looking forward to the Big Ten championship game?
I sure hope it wasn't that second part. But, when you're a Wisconsin player, it's to my understanding that one of the first things you are told once you get on campus, even as a freshman, is the axe and how important that is, how important the border battle is, and all of that. So I hope it really is not that second part. However, I mean, you never know. They should have known Minnesota was a decent team. It's not like they were a winless team going into this game. It wasn't going to be a cakewalk. There's dudes from each state on each team. I mean, a lot of those kids know each other. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be ramped up for that game? But, I would be lying if I said I haven't questioned Chris and his methods this year either. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Yep.
So I guess for me, the biggest takeaway I take from this, makes me want to puke saying this, but Tanner Morgan has won 2 of the last 3 X's, and he's fucking awful. That's how I feel right now. I am pissed. Tanner Morgan? Nobody's going to remember him in 20 years. Who the hell is that guy?
Nobody's going to remember him in 3 years.
Like, who's Tanner Morgan? I'm going to be like, I don't know. Some guy that apparently beat the Badgers 2 out of 3 years. Like, what the? Oh, my God. Anyways, let's move on to because I'm pissed off now. Let's move on to the report cards.
All right. So before we get into the report cards, I'm going to throw these out there because we're going to talk about pretty much all of these guys, whether it's going to be position groups or individually. And that is go through the Big Ten first, second, third team, and honorable mention. There's a whole bunch for the Badgers. So I'm going to throw these out there real quick. First team. First of all, actually, before I even get to the first team, Big Ten linebacker of the year is Leo Chenal. First team linebackers, Leo Chenal, Jack Sanborn, Jake Ferguson is the first team all Big Ten. Josh Seltzner, offensive lineman. Second team, Mike Sky, Keanu Benton, Braylon Allen, and Logan Bruss. Third team, Matt Henningsen, Caesar Williams, and Tyler Beach. And then honorable mention to Noah Burks, Nick Herbig, Fayon Hicks, Isaiah Mullins, Scott Nelson, and Colin Wilder. So we're going to talk, probably all these guys' names will come up except for maybe the offensive linemen because we're going to talk about them as a collective. But a lot of Big Ten, all Big Ten players on the Badgers this year. So, I mean, it was disappointing at times. Obviously, losing to Minnesota is disappointing. Losing the Penn State game, which was a really competitive game. Losing the Notre Dame game the way they did. Getting blown out by Michigan obviously sucked. But, I mean, it's not what Badger fans want to see from the Badgers, but it's also it could be worse if I'm trying to put it into perspective a little bit. Is the Badgers have a lot of talent. They were fun to watch at times. They went on a 7-game win streak. Mm-hmm. So it just sucks that it ends on a loss. Now, talking about report cards, we're going to start with the offense and then move to the defense. Let's talk about. We'll start with Graham Mertz. Let's give some grades and then let's talk about them. So for me, I'll throw out my grade first. Just throw out your grades and then let's talk about them. So for me, I gave Graham Mertz a C+ on the season.
Mikey?
Yeah, that's exactly what I had. I had a C+ actually.
Okay, I had a D+. I'm not kidding. I gave him a D+.
See how strict you guys are. So, man, I'm just getting. Yeah, I'm getting a little.
Well, that's why I wanted to throw the grades out before we start talking about them. So for me, I gave Graham Mertz a C+ because I felt that he had kind of an average season. This is his sophomore year. It's his second year as the full-time starter, and I gave him the C+. I gave about an average quarterback, and then I gave him the plus because he improved as the season went on. So that's where my C+ came from. He got better with his touch. He wasn't overthrowing wide receivers so often in the second half of the season. So that was why I gave him the C+. Mike, I don't know if that's similar to what you were thinking as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I guess, like, depending on the order of these games, I mean, obviously after like the first 3 to 4, I would have been like, okay, this is F, D-. But I mean, he did show improvements throughout the weeks. It definitely, that last game gave me a little bit of a sour taste as well, especially how it was conducted in the second half of that. But, there is a little bit of improvement, but you just look at even Wisconsin quarterbacks in the past, with the exception of Russell Wilson, it kind of falls in that same category of, average, maybe slightly above average, good enough to win some games for the year. It seems like it's the prototypical Badger quarterback.
The Joel Stavi, Alex Hornibrook, Scott Tolzien, Jim Sorgi.
I mean, they have different things that they can do as a quarterback, but it just seems like it comes out to be the same result, good but not great. So, and that speaks for the team, I guess you could say, in itself. But he did show improvements throughout the year. I'm hopefully optimistic going into the off season, but that can be another discussion for another time. But I stuck to the C+ on that. I was debating C+, but I gave him the nod for that. So I'm excited to hear what Jake's got to say on his feedback.
You guys are kind of making my point already, because he is an average Wisconsin quarterback, right? He wasn't recruited and talked about like the average Wisconsin quarterback, though. So I took all that into consideration. I took his play against ranked teams. When we played at a neutral site, we play on the road. I take all that stuff into consideration. I take his inaccuracy most times. Rushman over there is talking about how many he threw into the ground, how many times he's overthrown people. I mean, you have one of the best rushing attacks in the nation, with one of the best young running backs in the nation, and you're telling me on a play action you can't find Jake Ferguson in the middle wide open like that? That's impressive to you when he finds an 8-yard curl route to one of the best tight ends in the nation? That's not impressive to me. He's supposed to do that. The thing that just really, really makes me angry is like we just heard all about Mertz. We got excited that first game that he had, and he's really kind of been shit. You know, I gave him a D plus. That's the first grade that I've written down, and I wrote /C minus because when he's normal, he's a D plus. When he's playing above his level, he's a C minus. So you're not getting much better than what he normally is. And you know, you talked about it in Minnesota, and I wrote that down. Inability to take over a game. He doesn't have that ability. And if you want to be a championship team, your quarterback has to be able to take over. Your quarterback, no matter what team you are, is one of your star players. He plays a star position. He has the ball every play. He gets to make a decision on every single play, right? He could check out of a run. I mean, I hope he has that ability. He's the quarterback. He could check out of a run and throw a quick slant, but he's not good enough to do that. It just pisses me off that he was the highest recruited quarterback in history, and this is what we get. I'm like,
he is a sophomore, and his freshman year was the COVID year. So for me, I want to see him. I want to see him for one more year, and for me, the alternative being Chase Wolf, I'm going to stick with Graham Mertz for at least one more year.
I mean, we could do that. We could do that with Aaron Rodgers, though. I mean, the alternative to Aaron Rodgers is Jordan Love, and that doesn't look very damn good right now.
I mean, the drop off is a little bit different there, but
I mean, Mertz and Wolf are pretty even in my opinion.
Right.
They're both inaccurate. I mean, Wolf can at least run. He looks like he has some wheels, where Mertz just looks slow, like he's running in quicksand sometimes. I'll be honest with you, but I don't know. I wasn't impressed with Mertz. Maybe the last game's getting to me, but I'm not happy with him.
Yeah, it is like I look at some of his worst moments and even a couple of the positives. Like I just go back. I gave him like the plus, like the C plus part of it too. I go back to a game like against Nebraska where the offense did, save the defense from losing that game at home at Camp Randall. And I know, Braylon Allen did go off, but Mertz did make some good throws too. I taking that into consideration as well. Has he improved throughout the year? I would still say yes, but it's just not up to the Wisconsin. I shouldn't say it's up to the Wisconsin standard because we still ended up 9-4, good, not great. But you just want to see, because you can tell he's made some impressive throws. Like I do think he's got like a better like cannon, so to speak, than like what we've had than like an Alex Hornibrook. I think he can throw a better deep ball. I mean, it hasn't been accurate, so to speak, but he's just got to put it together. Read coverage is way better and not, stare down his first read like he did numerous times this year in multiple games.
The deep ball actually is bad because he's had some wide open receivers down the sideline and he just completely airmails it. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, if you just hit one or two of those, this game's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now you take those safeties and you move them off the line a couple more yards, then that hole for Malusi or Braylon Allen or Isaac Randall, like it's bigger. You know what I mean? It's one less set of hands, set of feet that you have to run over, run through. It's I don't know, just little things like that, I guess.
I think Graham Mertz is going to come up more when we talk about Paul Christ. So I think that's going to be part of that discussion. But let's get your guys' grades for Braylon Allen.
This is pretty. I think this is pretty self-explanatory here, given the amount of time he got on the team. I gave him an A straight up. I mean, I would say, arguably, he single-handedly saved the season for us because if he's not there, Malusi's gone, Isaac Rendo's gone. We don't have anything in the running back spot. We just talked about the inconsistencies our quarterbacks had throughout the year. We don't have Braylon Allen. We don't make a bowl game, in my opinion. We probably have maybe, I'm thinking 5 wins at the very, very best if we're without Braylon Allen. So it's an A for sure. He saved our season.
I also gave Braylon Allen an A for a lot of the same reasons. I hope the ankle doesn't become a recurring thing. It's I hope that it's just a thing where he rests in the offseason, he gets back to work, and then he's ready to go for the beginning of next season. And I got to say, as far as memory serves me, I would say Braylon Allen is probably the best freshman in Badger history.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy. I gave Braylon Allen an A++.
Okay, I'll do the same then. All right, I'm with you.
He's too damn big to only have 1+. That's how I feel. He jumps over people, runs through people. He's great, man. He really, you said that he saved the season. When he got over 100 yards, the Badgers won. He did that for 7 straight games. He didn't do that last week. We lost. I mean, you could say he was the offense, kind of like how Jonathan Taylor was a form, really was the offense when he was here too. So Braylon Allen, he was great. He averaged 7 yards a rush, which is absolutely insane.
That is
12
insane.
touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a monster. He's a truck. And Wisconsin definitely has some of the best power backs in the whole country if you add in NFL and college.
Oh yeah, dude, if you could just take two, if you just take Braylon Allen and Jonathan Taylor, I would charge you to find any better combination between an active college and an active NFL running back.
That's impossible. That's not happening. We definitely have the best because Jonathan Taylor is top 5, top 2.
This year he's probably top 2.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like Jonathan Taylor's name is popping up in MVP discussions.
That's crazy. They should have won against the Buccaneers, but let's stay on the Badgers real quick here.
All right, let's talk about the other 2 running backs. I put these 2 together just because they both had early endings to their seasons. So let's talk about Chez Mellusi and Isaac Guerendo. Jake, I'll let you go first on this one.
So Randall, his season got ended really, really early. He had a humongous, he still has the longest run of the season, I believe. And he hit the highest ball carry speed.
Yeah, he did.
So Isaac Guerendo he's a big play guy. I gave him a B simply because he was averaging 7 yards a carry himself. He's kind of a home run hitter, so he had 23 carries, 160 yards, and that 1 touchdown. So he's kind of a home run hitter. He's a pretty good player. I didn't get to see enough of him this year to really give him anything above a B, but I'll give him a B because he was still pretty solid. I also gave Chez Mellusi a B. I thought he was good at times. He's a little bit more like an Aaron Jones type. He's not Aaron Jones, where he's more of a shifty, one cut kind of back. Like you can't just ask him to power through a hole. You can't be like, we're going C gap, and then Mellusi's gonna be like, I guess I'll just push these 340 pounders around. That's just not his game. He's an open space kind of guy, but I still like Chez Mellusi. He's a good change of pace compared to Braylon Allen. He's a cut you up kind of guy, and that's exactly how I feel about Jones.
He's got a nice spin move when he uses it.
He does. I mean, Mellusi's a good player. For anybody to say he's not, he still averaged 4.7 yards a rush.
And he dealt with the offensive line early in the season when they were really bad.
Yeah, we were terrible in the first couple of weeks. So
yeah,
Mellusi's still a good player, and he was only a sophomore, so he'll be coming back next year. So
I thought Chez was a junior.
I thought he was a redshirt sophomore.
I think he's a junior.
He could be a junior.
I think.
I got to look into this because I know the NCAA did this with basketball, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with football. That guy's got an extra season, so I want to see who is going to end up making that decision to play that extra year. Like Danny Davis and Kendrick Pryor were 5th and 6th year players, so I want to see who comes back with that extra year of eligibility. If anybody sticks around, like maybe a Colin Wilder, who I mentioned was a senior, if his junior year, that 2020 year, didn't count towards his eligibility, if he's willing to come back and then play another season. So that'll be definitely something we look for coming into a primer when we do a Badger primer for 2022. But Mike, what'd you have for Mellusi and Guerendo?
Yeah, I had B's for both as well. I mean, given like what Guerendo could do before he got hurt, I mean, he showed his capabilities, especially that Eastern Michigan game. That was fun to see. For B's for both. I mean, Mellusi's not the same type of runner as what Braylon Allen is, but you need a guy like that on your team, plain and simple. I think personally, all 3 of these guys do come back next year. I believe this could be one hell. I mean, if we just stay healthy, this could be a very, 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 very scary backfield. It really could be. You get a year of learning under Braylon Allen's belt. Lucy's got plenty of experience, obviously. mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure if he didn't have 40 carries, it was probably 35 against that game against Penn State for like $110 or whatever that was. So, he's got plenty of experience. He can carry the ball. He's gotten us out of so many, or a good handful of situations throughout the year too. So I think Braylon Allen will be the number one back starting next year. Hopefully Ches is ready to go by camp, because I know it was questionable at best that he would be with his injury. So, you hope for the best with that. And, Isaac Randall's just had very, very bad luck. It's been noted, over the past few years, ever since he got on campus essentially too, and converted to running back. So you just hope for the best of these guys, that they stay healthy. I mean, all of them have the potential to be, great and really productive for this team. And I look forward to, seeing how they progress for next year.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line. We kind of just mentioned it when we talked about the running backs a little bit. For me, I gave the offensive line a B minus. We saw the all Big Ten, that a lot of them were recognized first, second, third, honorable mention, because they did improve as the season went on. Braylon Allen is a great running back, but the offensive line plays parts in that. And also, I can honestly tell you, obviously he doesn't drop back a lot, but I barely remember Graham Mertz ever being knocked down, much less sacked. It was pretty rough in the early goings of the season, but they improved as the season went on. So I have a B minus for the Badgers offensive line.
Mikey.
All right. That's exactly what I had as well. The B minus. At the beginning of the year, I first off, I know, I gave these guys a B minus, but I'm still kind of surprised one or two of these guys made that all Big Ten personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think of a guy, I hate singling him out, but like a Tyler Beach, the left tackle, I go back to the opening game against Penn State where he just got absolutely destroyed, and Merce just got rocked a couple of times. And, there were times when he I can think of a handful off the top of my head where he just got absolutely destroyed and could have used some help, on his end. And I just don't remember left tackle, like those kind of Wisconsin left tackles just getting beat like that week in and week out. And that was, that definitely struck a nerve to me throughout the year with that guy for sure. I think the brighter spots are actually in that offensive line are the younger guys, like the Joe Tipmans at center, and even Jack Nelson. Like, that's our future right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Personally, I guess I should have paid attention better, but seeing Seltzner first team all Big Ten as a guard, that's impressive. It's impressive. No, it's really impressive. I personally didn't see it coming. In my view, this year, as far as an offensive line goes, it was another good but not outstanding or great. I was going to do a B, but then when I gave him a B minus because we play the teams such as like the Michigans, the Penn States, the really good teams. And I don't want to say we did show our true colors at times, but, look at the last game against Minnesota. We couldn't get the run game going. That's how we get through these types of games. And that's why I gave the B minus, I guess. When we play the really good teams, we kind of showing our true colors. Got better week over week for a little bit, but then it started to die down a little bit some more going off that last game.
So I left them with a solid B. I did give them a B. They, I agree with Rushman at some points. They did dominate some games. They wore some people out, and Mikey hit it on the head. I have it written down. Jack Nelson was probably our best, most consistent lineman this year. He was great pulling, getting out in front of the big fellas, and just let that big dude rumble and knock some little dudes out. But 3 out of the 5 of our O-line this year are redshirt seniors, so we're going to be having 3 new starters next year. But the Badgers are an O-line factory. We've seen that for years now, so not going to be super worried about that. Just going to be a little bit of a changeover, but you got Braylon Allen, and hopefully Mertz comes back next year and he's a little bit better and can help conduct a little bit more of the offensive line. I'm looking for Mertz to take a big step, but the O-line was kind of up and down. I mean, they did good blocking for the rush. We had 215.4 yards a game, 16th in the nation. It's pretty good. but we only passed for 162. So, I mean, you bring up games against Notre Dame and Penn State, and, these guys are so used to, they're so big to just going forward right away and attacking people that they're not very good at going back and letting people attack them. That's a whole different ball game. We're used to 50 times a game going forward and just laying on people, which they're pretty good at that. But you got to do both. So that's why I gave them a B, because they're all right, but they're not great.
Yeah, it feels like a second team All Big Ten line, not a first team All Big Ten line.
Yeah.
But all right, let's talk about wide receivers. This is kind of an odd group because there wasn't a terrible amount of opportunity, even though it seemed like there was some talent there. So let's talk about the wide receivers. Jake, it feels like we haven't let you kick one off in a while, so I'll let you kick off the wide receivers.
Game of C+. Because there was, like you said, there was talent. I like Davis. I like Pryor. I like DK. But they all have the ability to make a spectacular catch. But I've also seen Kendrick Pryor drop a bunch. I've seen Danny Davis. And these guys they're not young guys. These guys have been in college for damn near as long as I've been out of high school, it seems like. So they just been in college a while. DK he's the young guy of the group, and he'll be the number one next year. Davis, Pryor, they've been there forever, and Davis ended with 32 catches and Pryor ended with 31 catches. That's pretty piss poor if you ask me. So it is what it is, but I think it'll be nice to have some new fresh faces. That's my personal opinion. Kind of feels like the basketball team of last year, where it's like it kind of ran its course. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you brought up the comparison that I made earlier this year. Was I compared Kimmeray DK to Johnny Davis? That's the excitement level that I have. I feel that opportunity is there for Kimmeray DK next year. That being said, I did give the linebackers a B the wide receivers. I gave them a B because I do feel that they are talented wide receivers. There's not a ton of opportunity. They had some, we talked about with Graham Mertz, some of the overthrows that he made earlier in the season. Those guys were open. They just need to get him the ball. That said, there were a couple really, really nice plays. I remember one by Kimmeray DK, one by Kendrick Pryor, where Graham Mertz just put the ball up for him. And they went and got it. So, there's talent with these three guys. And you can throw Jack Dunn in there. He's kind of under the radar a little bit, but, he's helpful at times. So, I like these wide receivers. I wish they just would have had a little bit more opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went actually right in between you guys. I actually did a B- here. So that kind of worked out with the old average. But no, given the opportunities and everything, I took that into account. I will say right now, I think DK is going to be special for us. We are going to have to rely on him a lot next year. Given that we are losing Davis, we're losing Pryor, we're losing Jake Ferguson. The only other tight end that showed flashes in terms of what Jake Ferguson does with catches was Clay Cundiff. And what happened to Clay Cundiff?
Really little bit.
Oh yeah, and he was out for the rest of the year. So I think DK is going to be special. I think he showed flashes. I remember that Michigan game when they were on right before halftime, and Mertz just kept throwing it to him. And DK definitely showed some flashes. We even saw it last season too as a freshman. So I'm looking forward for him to take a big step next year. As for Pryor and Davis, they did both make plays this year. I thank them for their time because I was expecting a little more, but that's not their fault necessarily. But Pryor definitely made some plays. He had that one missed catch against Nebraska a couple weeks ago that should have been damn near a touchdown, or he would have been down at the 1 or 2. But he definitely made some plays this year. Davis made his fair share when given the opportunity. So it's just kind of I wish they would have got more opportunities, but they did what they could with what was available. So B- I think was pretty fair.
All right, Mike, keep talking about the tight ends. Let's talk about tight ends.
Okay, well, I guess since basically only 1 or 2 of them played this year, I'm going to give an A just because of Jake Ferguson, that 95% of it. He's not much. He was the only one that we got to see this year, with exception to, Clay Cundiff until he got hurt. And he had the big catch against Notre Dame. I forget which game it was that he he got hurt against. It was at home. I think it was the Iowa game, maybe. I forget. It was at home, but Jake Ferguson. I hope he gets an A in my book. He saved Wisconsin's butt numerous times the last few seasons. So gets an A, and I wish him nothing but the best for sure in the NFL in the future. And maybe low key, maybe the Packers take him next year in the draft. I don't know.
Dude, I hope they do.
I don't want to put that in anyone's head, but here I am doing it already.
I think we threw it out there last week that maybe we hoped that the Packers could grab Jake Ferguson, but I did an A- for the tight ends kind of because of the reasons that you mentioned. Jake Ferguson gets an A++. I mean, he had 43 receptions, 417 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you'd like to see those touchdowns numbers up, but as far as the passing game goes, Jake Ferguson was the most consistent and the most reliable option. I talked about it during the season a whole bunch of times that they ran that tight end screen for him a bunch of times. Absolutely love that play. It worked for like 10 yards every time they ran it. I give him the A- just because there's really nobody else there. Maybe Graham Mertz is a guy that could benefit from some 2 tight end sets where both of the tight ends are threats to be there in the pass catching game. Mm-hmm. Clay Cundiff, we don't really know what his injury was, so we don't really know what his status for 2022 is. That being said, I couldn't tell you who other tight ends are on this roster. So that's why I went with the A- instead of giving him the flat A, which Jake Ferguson deserves on his own.
So I gave him a B+, because if I was going to grade Jake Ferguson, because really we're just grading Jake Ferguson, I'd give him a B+ grade. That's what kind of player I think he is. I don't know if he's an A player. Those are really, really phenomenal guys, but I do think that Jake Ferguson's very good. The other tight end is Jack Eschenbach, by the way. I combined Clay Cundiff and Jack Eschenbach's stats. They had 6 catches, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. So not a very big sample size.
I think out of that, I think Clay Cundiff had like a 35-yard touchdown.
Yeah, he had the majority of it. I didn't even write down their single stats. I just wrote them down combined. I was just like, I got to do some quick math, boom, boom, boom. That's it. But yeah, Ferguson was really the man. I really wish they would just give him the ball more. They ran that screen. That's a great play. Little curls, little outs. I mean, Ferguson's a good route runner, and he's a very good run blocker. He's a good player.
He's
and
good
I've
hands.
been saying for weeks, Mikey, that I hope he ends up on the Packers, man. Him and Kittle Light would be awesome together, dude.
Yeah. Dude, that would be legit.
He have good tight ends. That's the problem. But he could take big dogs' place if he retires.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that, like another conversation for another time. But yeah, you got to think about Big Bob's health, what that's like with his ACL injury. And then, do we know if Marseilles is coming back next year? I guess we won't know until about probably a month or so before camp. So,
yeah.
All right, Mike, I'm going to give you the chance to talk about the defensive line because you called one way back in the primer. So I'll let you throw that one out there.
Oh yeah, so D line, I did an A. Just given the fact I start with Keanu Benton, the guy's a beast. I hope to God I hope he stays next year. But I didn't see, as far as like Pro Football Focus, if there was any sort of like draft analysis on where he would land. I guess I didn't really see anything come out with him yet. I could be way off on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no, he had a solid year. I was so happy for him that he got all. I think he played every single game this year too, or pretty close to that. That was good to see. You think about defensive line. You think defensive line. You think about stopping the run first and foremost. And we were number 1, if not number 2 or 3 in the nation collectively overall. We did get a little sloppy in the last game against I think Minnesota, and even I think. Nebraska ran on us for a little bit, but I'm happy. Keanu Benton, he had a great year. I mean, Henningsen, he's put in his time here. I think he was honorable mention, I believe.
He was third team, actually. Isaiah Mullins was honorable mention.
That's true. Okay. And then, those guys had decent years too. Henningsen's made a ton of plays for us in the past. He's had a great career with Wisconsin, and I don't think he did not quite as much as what he did in years past, but I think that's because you got guys like Keanu Benton on the line that kind of overshadows it a little bit. So no, we stopped the run for the most part. As a D line, that's not all you can really ask for, but that's, the main concept of it.
So I think the D line actually did a little bit more than just stopping the run. I gave the D line an A minus. I probably could have bumped it up to an A even. Keanu Benton, he did play all 12 games. He had 24 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 2 passes defensed, and 2 fumble recoveries. Yes, he's the Kenny Clark of Wisconsin football. And then you bring in Matt Henningsen, who's like the Dean Lowry of Wisconsin Badger football. He played all 12 games. He had 31 tackles, 5.5 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, and a pass defensed. So those 2 guys right there, they got their second and third team, Big Ten nods. And then you throw in Isaiah Mullins, who was an honorable mention. So, I could have been persuaded to give this group an A. I gave him an A minus. But, Jake, how are you feeling about the defensive line?
Tyler and I are on the same wavelength. I gave him an A minus. Tyler mentioned the tackles for loss, and I added Isaiah Mullins in there. Totally, they had 13 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks. And like Mikey said, when you think of a 3-4 run defense, you're really looking for guys that take up space, take up multiple blockers. So for these guys like Benton and Henningsen, to be able to get to the quarterback and make tackles for loss while getting double teamed or schemed against that way, that's impressive in its own way.
And occasionally knocking the ball down too.
Yeah, that's great. That's coaching. You could tell the defense was coached the right way, which that'll be a hot topic when we get to Jim Leonard. But you could tell that the coaching on the defense was much better than it was on the offense, more consistent, and where their keys and where they wanted to be in those situations. But some guy that we forgot about, because Henningsen is a good player. He actually reminds me a little bit of Loudermilk.
Mm-hmm.
Loudermilk found his way onto an NFL roster. He's actually getting some run for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
Yeah,
I watched a couple Steelers games, and he's getting a lot of playing time over there. So I don't know if it's because of injuries or not, but Wisconsin's putting a lot of defensive players in the NFL right now. That's all I know, and a lot on defense.
So speaking of Wisconsin players that are going to be in the NFL, try to put A-pluses across the board for the linebackers.
Yeah, yes. We don't have to say the grades. We know the grades for the linebackers.
I think this linebacking group's probably the best in the country. I think Georgia is the only one that would even have a remote chance to challenge it. Looking at these 3, the death row 3 linebackers, and then you throw in Noah Burks, who was among the leading tacklers. Looking at Jack Sanborn, who's a senior, he played all 12 games, 88 tackles, 3.5 sacks. The fumble recovery. Look at Leo Chenal, who's a junior, played in 10 games, but still had 106 tackles. That's insane. Averaged over 10 tackles a game. That's insane. 2 forced fumbles, 7 sacks. I can't say enough about Leo Chenal. He's just an absolute monster. Got the nod as the Big Ten linebacker of the year. And then you throw in a guy like Nick Herbig, who I actually really like, was only a sophomore. He had 57 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, 4 passes defensed, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 recovery. So those are the death row linebackers. Those 3, I would say, I would say they're the best linebacking group in the country.
Well, of course, there's no argument to that. It's really, really special watching this group. You think about Wisconsin now and putting, players in the NFL, like Jake said. I think arguably we're, LBU just as much as RBU at this point. I ain't plain and simple. I think Herbig definitely has an NFL future. I'm willing to bet Oren Burks will definitely at least get a look if he doesn't get drafted. Jack Sanborn, NFL draft pick, no question about it. Leo Chenal, hopefully he stays, but if he doesn't, he's getting drafted. So those are 4 dudes right there that I firmly believe can be in the NFL or will be in the NFL.
Yeah, you look at guys like Chris Orr and Zach Bond who found their way on NFL rosters, even though they weren't drafted. Joe Schobert's still floating around in the league. Obviously, TJ Watt was second defensive player of the year last year.
Andrew
So I
Van
mean,
Ginkel, dude, he's getting
TJ
ton of playing time
Edwards,
from Miami.
TJ Edwards is out there. So I mean,
another undrafted guy.
yeah, these guys find their way on NFL rosters even if they don't get drafted, just because the culture that they're in is that linebacker university. So,
Yep.
Jake, you have anything else you want to say about the linebackers?
Yeah, man. I added up their total, their solo, their assists, their tackles for loss, and their sacks. This is freaking insane, dude. So all of them together, we're talking Chanel, Sanborn, Burks, and Herbig, right? They had 263 tackles. That's nuts. 155 solo, 130 assists, 51 tackles for loss, and 20 sacks. That's crazy. Dude, Leo Chenal had 17 tackles for loss by himself.
Yes, he did.
That dude is a grown man. He's an absolute grown man. Herbig had 12, which you said, 7 sacks. Herbig's going to be a monster next year.
Yes, he is.
If he could play well, like say Chenal comes back and Herbig can double up on these stats, like say he ends with 15 tackles for loss and say he gets double-digit sacks, that's a first-round pick.
I could see this between, this year we have Sanborn and Chenal on the first team All Big Ten. I could see it next year if Chenal comes back having Chenal and Herbig on the first team All Big Ten.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Chenal will definitely be, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and Herbig will be looked at as a candidate to be first team All Big Ten.
The first team, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got some really, really good linebackers. I'm actually very interested to talk about the safeties for a reason that our defense coordinator is a former safety, so I'm excited about getting to that. But
let's talk corners first. I'll let Mike go first on corners, and then we'll let Jake go first on the safeties because he's excited.
Okay,
this is a tough one.
This is very tough because safety. I'm kind of going to be coordinating this with the safeties as well.
I thought about doing the secondary as a whole, but there's a lot of guys individually to talk about, so I wanted to keep them separate.
Yeah. This was really, really tough for me because this is in my view, this is the weakest point of the defense, and this is what I'll mention that in the Jim Leonard point, but I said a B- on the corners, honestly. And it's going to kind of reflect on the safeties as well, because I look at top to bottom, we're a good but not great team. And just like there are a handful of times, you can go back to the Nebraska game. You can go back to, even the Penn State game or Michigan game. There were so many, or not so many, but there was enough blown coverages and miscommunication issues when the linebackers or the linemen weren't getting pressure on the quarterback. The quarterback would have time to throw it. We got beat on the deep ball numerous times, and it hasn't just happened this year. It's happened.
Penn State game was awful in Michigan. Those two games stand out so badly how bad they were beat by the deep ball.
And even Nebraska, too. I mean, Nebraska, we got just absolutely torched, in my view.
That was their tight end. Their tight end shredded the Badgers in that game.
It was.
That's the safeties.
Yeah. And like I said, it's going to go hand in hand kind of for me in my view on this, but Wisconsin's kryptonite I said this at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to continue to say it until it gets corrected. Our kryptonite's always going to be in the secondary, and it's starting with the corners and the safeties. Just in my view, we do have ball hawks back there. Don't get me wrong, but I just think, when a quarterback does get time to throw against us, which, we've seen against the teams that are fairly good, we can typically get torched by a good receiver. So until that gets corrected, I'm going to be as strict as possible on this, because I've watched this numerous times over and over again, year after year. Even when Leonard is the defensive coordinator, we just cannot seem to quite match up athletically on the outside or even in the safety spot. So that's why I gave a B- on this.
I also had a B-. They were the first 3 or 4 games we talked about the Badgers wanting to limit the big plays and try to create some turnovers. And then they rattled off 5 games in a row of 4 takeaways. So it was kind of a struggle in the beginning of the end of the season, but they were really great in the middle. So that's kind of where I landed with my B-, just because they did really, really great for like a 4-week stretch when when we beat Purdue and we beat Iowa, and it's like, hey, the Badgers are back here. The Badgers are back in, contention for the Big Ten West after people were writing them off. So it's a tough group to evaluate, I will say. So I'm interested to hear what else Jake has to say.
Give him a C. Against some lower competition, they looked all right, but they also looked bad against lower competition. I mean, Nebraska, they're better than their record, but they killed us, bro. I mean, their tight end went crazy that game, but they also had a wide receiver, touching us up a little bit, I would say, in my opinion.
Yep.
The thing about this group, why I gave a C, is because never were able to get a coverage sack. Mike kind of hit on it. I talked about it with Caesar Williams. He was I wrote down he's kind of a big play guy. He had 3 interceptions and a touchdown. He's probably the only one out of this group that'll really get a look at the NFL, in my opinion. Fan Hicks, he can just get out physical all day, every day. You do not put that guy in a physical wide receiver, he will get worked a little bit. And Dean Ingram, he's only a sophomore. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he'll have some time. He made a really, really nice play on his one interception this year where he kind of jumped the route.
He did.
But
he almost had one last week. I think he jumped the rope, but he just dropped the ball.
Yeah, he has a chance to be all right. But, overall, this group is a little bit underwhelming. I really don't remember the last good Wisconsin cornerback where I was like, damn, that guy's really good. I can't recall.
Sojourn Shelton maybe is the first guy that pops in my head.
Maybe.
But,
yeah, I always remember the one corner. I don't even remember his name. This was way long ago. I was a little kid where he got kicked off the team for stealing an Xbox. You remember that?
What year was that? I honestly don't. Don't
he was really, really young. My dad would remember. I wish my dad was in here. But he was like our best corner, and they were talking about him getting drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round, and he got kicked. It was like the original Xbox too. That's how long ago this was.
Oh wow!
And he got in trouble for like breaking into some other kid's dorm, and that's whenever I think of Badgers corners, I think of not very good, and that guy stealing an Xbox for some reason.
All right, Jake, talk about safeties.
Jesus Christ! All right. I didn't even know a freaking grade to give these guys because they make good plays every once in a while, and then for every good play, Scott Nelson blows a fucking coverage.
Dude, he wants to play linebacker so badly. Oh.
God, yeah. Guy who picked Breeze. Who are you talking about? Say his name, Rushman. What I was gonna say, I mean, Scott Nelson, he had the pick 6 this week, right? And after that pick 6, I was kind of feeling like, all right, here we go, baby.
Yeah.
We're gonna run this ball down their throat. Oh yeah. Scott Nelson, though, man, he basically is a linebacker playing out there at safety, and you could tell he did not have the athleticism to run with those guys. And I do like Colin Wilder, though. I did like him. He was a scrappy little guy. He made a lot of plays. He had 3 interceptions. He had all those in that stretch where Tyler was talking about our DBs really, really playing well. We started to force turnovers. Colin Wilder is a good player. He kind of reminded me of Leonard. He wore the same number. He was little. You didn't expect much from him, and all of a sudden he pops up on the screen with a couple turnovers. He punches the ball out, but he's a good player. I like him. But overall, you guys ready for my grade?
Oh boy, let's hear it.
Give him an F.
Yes.
Ouch.
I thought I was gonna be harsh. Holy.
Scott Nelson screwed us in the Penn State game. He screwed us in the Notre Dame game. He had too many plays.
You didn't even mention the other guy that I thought was struggled really early in the season. He improved as the season went on, and that's Torchio.
No,
he was really bad at the beginning of the season and kind of picked it up as the season went on. But I'm interested to hear what Mike has a grade for him. I gave him a C, so I'll see what the consensus ends up being on this one.
Yeah, I actually did a C as well. I just go back to Penn State. I go back to Michigan. I go back to we have been beaten by so many big plays against good teams throughout the years. And it's either because it's a miscommunication issue with the secondary or it's purely athleticism. And, you know, a guy like Scott Nelson, he did make a lot of plays this year. Jay kind of hit it on the head. He's like, or you, Tyler, you did as well. Like, he's like a hard hitting safety, but like when somebody's going to be running deep on him, like there's a good chance he might get beat against, you know, the average 4-star wide receiver or whatever. But, you know, we're good at stopping the run. It says that like stats, you know, show that otherwise, but we just do not have the athleticism to cover big time dudes at the receiving position. It's been a problem for years. And like I said, this coordinates with my cornerbacks here, but I just think collectively the safeties were more responsible for giving up those big plays throughout the year. And that's why I honestly gave him a lower grade. I mean, Colin Wilder, he was the inventor of the grit factory hat. You know, he did make plays this year. I respect the hell out of him for sure. But, you know, when you take the safeties as a group and, you know, when you're in the D coordinator himself as a safety, I mean, I'm hoping that position, you know, the quality of that changes soon. But ultimately with safeties are for the most part responsible in getting beat by the deep ball because your job is not to let anyone go by you, so to speak, at the end of the day. And we just suffered enough big plays to, you know, lose us some football games this year because of that. So, yeah, I actually gave a C on that.
All right, let's switch this to a good note and let's talk about Jim Leonhard. Mike, I'll let you go first on Jim Leonhard. I'm gonna let Jake go last because I know he's got a great set of stats for Jim Leonhard. So
I can't wait to hear it. So, overall, I mean, given what I just said, I'm gonna go with an A. I mean, you have to, you know, take everything into account. I know we didn't necessarily like the losses that we had were against really, really good teams. I was really harsh on the safeties and cornerbacks there, but you can't deny having a top 2 or top 3 defense in the country. Can't really ask for much more. I mean, we're LBU. We're damn near D-line U too. We're going to be pretty soon. We just got to get Leonard's just got to correct, you know, this whole cornerback and safety issue. So I'm hoping we recruit better. I know like one of the highly touted safeties that we did just bring in is actually a Wisconsin kid, Hunter Wohler from Muskego. He's supposed to have a promise. That's supposed to be like, so to speak, the next big one to come through. So I don't mind the future. I do want to look more into their cornerback spot because I'm a little worried about that. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can't really ask for much more having a top 3, top 5 defense at the end of the regular season. A lot of programs would kill for that. So I would give that squad collectively an A at the end of the day. So I'll let Jake bring on the stats because I'm anxious to hear this.
I'll let Tyler go first.
I gave Jim Leonhard an A+ just because I mentioned it already. You know, I think we have the best linebacking group in the country. I would say, you know, the best front 7 in the country, and they, you know, the corners and the safeties, they went on a stretch where they were creating a lot of turnovers and you know, doing a lot of good stuff. So, you know, like Mike said, a lot of teams, a lot of programs would kill to have a defensive coordinator like this. And after Jake is done talking, I want to pose a question to stir the pot a little bit.
Okay. I gave him an A+. I'm a big Jim Leonhard guy. He did a great job. I mean, obviously you guys know how I feel about the corners and safeties now, but he had that front 7 playing elite football. So we were first in the nation in rushing yards, 65 yards a game. That's incredible. That's incredible. So they were second in 3 categories. Total yards, 2,889 total yards. Not too bad. Yards per play, they only allowed 4.17. And yards per game, 240.8. First in all those categories was Georgia. And Georgia's defense is insane this year. We were 6th in passing yards, 175.6. So all the big chunk plays were really all the passing yards we gave up. Yep. And then points per game, we gave up 16.4. A lot of that is, we threw some pick sixes and in bad positions too. So think about how incredible that is.
I'll say, you look at 2 games, that was like 100 points.
Dude, Georgia's defense doesn't even allow a touchdown per game.
Yeah.
They're under 7 points per game.
Can't wait to watch them on Saturday.
That's disgusting, bro. That is disgusting. They're like 6.8 or something like that. I still gave him an A+. Like Mike said, can't ask for much more. He did great. He's pumping out NFL players, which obviously is attractive to these high school kids that are like, I want to go make millions of dollars hitting people. So if we can continue to have great defense, have great success putting these guys out there, I would love to get some corners and some DB athletes out on the outside. That would just be next level defense. That's where you start itching into Georgia and SEC speed and stuff like that. But at this point, he's still doing a great job.
All right. So before I pose my question, let's talk about Paul Chryst. I gave Paul Chryst a C+, and I gave him the same grade that I gave Graham Mertz for a reason, because Paul Chryst was the quarterback's coach this year. So as he goes, as Graham Mertz goes, those two are going to go hand in hand a lot. And a lot of what I want to see from Paul Chryst involves Graham Mertz. So I gave him a C+ because he had some really, really bad play calling. He had some pretty good play calling at times. Like I mentioned, that tight end screen, that's a beautiful play. There was a play in the Nebraska game where they had a 3rd and 2. They were in shotgun with Braylon Allen, and they ran a halfback draw. That's a beautiful play call. The punt, when you're down 10 points with like 4 minutes left to go, and you were going to punt on 4th and 1, and you got a false start penalty that made you change your mind, that is about as bad of play calling as you can possibly have. Now, that being said, what I'm looking for next year is I want to see more creativity, and I want to see him open up the playbook for Graham Mertz. He's going to have a whole offseason to work with a guy like Kimmeray DK. They're both going to be juniors next year. Don't let them go anywhere without each other. Just let them create some chemistry and have some trust the way that, Devante and Aaron Rodgers work together. Let him have that with somebody. I want to see some more creativity in the play calling. I don't want to see, not that I don't appreciate Wisconsin football where it's, we're going to run the ball 45 times and, we have all the big guys, so good luck trying to stop it. I want to see some dynamics with the run and the pass. I want to see some play action more than twice a game. I just want to see some creativity, and I want to see him open up the playbook for Graham Mertz to see if Graham Mertz can be what we hope Graham Mertz can be. Throwing 15 times a game doesn't give you a much of a sample size to judge him on. You judge him on the bad plays that he makes all you want, but you got to give him then the same amount of credit for the good plays that he does make. So I want to see more creativity out of Paul Chryst. So I gave Paul Chryst a C+, and I believe as he goes, Graham Mertz goes, and vice versa.
Jake, do you want to go or should I go?
All right, I'll go.
All right.
I gave him a C+ as well, and I felt like I was being nice when I did that. He does some good things, does some bad things. I have a little bit of stats for you guys for this one too. Took a lot of counting on my end, but total yards, we had 377.5. That is 88th out of 130. Not good. Pass yards, 162.1 per game. That is 118th out of 130. That's bad. Rushing, 215.4, 16th out of 130. That's good. Points per game, 25.8, 86th out of 130. Tyler talks about being more dynamic. Why not just be more decisive in your decision making? I feel like he's questioning his play calls every once in a while. When he was at Pittsburgh, he was let's sling this baby all around the park. Now you have the ability to run the ball. Why not sling it every once in a while a little bit more? Do little wide receiver screens. You got these athletes because they're athletic, right? They can make plays. We saw Danny Davis make a play in the Purdue game. He threw a little wide receiver screen. He made one guy miss because there's 8-9 people in the box trying to stop Braylon Allen. He makes one guy miss and he goes 70 yards. Why not a little bit more of that? That's easy completions for Graham Mertz too. If you can't complete a simple screen pass, then you're screwed. I don't know what else to say. I like Paul Chryst. I don't think he deserves to get fired, in my opinion. But there's also times where he just makes me go like, God, I want to punch you through this TV so fucking bad right now. Yeah. So with that being said, Mikey, what's your grade, buddy?
We're all on the same page in terms of grade. I did a C+ as well. Tyler, I kind of thought about your philosophy with like Graham Mertz and him go hand in hand. Here's my thing. So Paul Christ, he's been here for probably about what? I forget how many years it is now.
This is 6. I think he came in
6.
2015.
Okay. You see, his predictability on play calling has been, I think, not so obvious, but there was numerous times this year where going even back into the beginning of the year, we have an A defense, right? How many of these games this year, probably more so in the beginning of the year, that we could have won with even an average offense? These first 4 games this year, with the exception of Eastern Michigan, it was so bad. Like Malusi, we would give the ball to Ches Malusi maybe for 2 yards each play, and then we'd end up punting. If we get, there's our offense, like at the beginning of the year, when we were stuffed at like the 10 to 15-yard line, we might have got maybe 10 yards and then we'd have to punt it. Penn State was 0-0 at halftime. We scored, like, the creativity is, in my view, it needs to be corrected. In my opinion, I think we should be open to this. Bring in somebody from the outside to at least be an offensive coordinator, or at least maybe a quarterback's coach, something. Because to me, we're still on that path of being good but not great, and I think it's still going to keep going that way until we spice something up somewhere. And I think play calling, unfortunately, is part of it, because if you're a regular Wisconsin Badger fan like I am and watch every single game, and you're seeing this repetitive stuff happening over and over again with some of this stuff, I just think you need to bring somebody in from the outside of Paul Chris' circle to at least, like, whether it's working with Mertz or even an offensive coordinator, because last year it was Joe Rudolph, I believe, calling the plays.
Yep.
This year it was Paul Chris.
Yep.
In my view, it didn't really change in terms of success overall collectively with that. So I think you do need to entertain bringing in somebody from the outside with this, because I just think we're still on the path of this and not this.
Let me ask you a question. I just thought of this.
All right.
I think I said this a couple weeks ago. So the last year of McCarthy in Green Bay was run, pass, right? Run left, run right, pass, punt. That's what it was. Not creative at all. We're not stuck in the 90s. You can't just run the ball 70 times and expect to win a bunch of football games. So we're watching Michigan improve. We're watching Ohio State every year. Iowa's a pretty good team. I mean, they're in the Big Ten championship game for a reason. I mean, all those teams, they run the ball, but it's handcuffed with the passing. It's not just run like we're Army. We don't run it 70 times a game. We're not triple option, Georgia Tech, all that kind of stuff. So do you think that there's similarities with Paul Chris' offense this year and Mike McCarthy his last year in Green Bay?
I'm going to say no because of one play. They don't run the McCarthy special pitch play. They don't run that. God, I used to hate that. It's like, yes, you're giving Eddie Lacy a pitch play to start him 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage when he's already slow.
No. The best play was always John Kuhn, 3rd and 1. Everybody in America knew John Kuhn was getting that goddamn ball. Oh, my gosh.
But I see similarities, unfortunately. I mean, there's just some of the same habits that have occurred, with Chris making the play calls game after game after game. And, just you could predict what was going to happen. I just think there needs to be more creativity, plain and simple, kind of like you said, and be open to, have some open feedback from from another coach or coaches. I guess if you're not going to hire somebody from the outside, at least accept feedback from other, offensive minded coaches with what you have on staff. If you're not going to bring anybody from the outside, I still think they should entertain it. I hope McIntosh maybe brings it up, the AD, if he has any say in that. I don't know. But just,
take something off of his plate.
Yes, exactly. And because he's, we have to remember he's the head coach. He runs the show ultimately on both sides of the ball. But,
right.
I am trying to go back to the fact that Paul Chryst was calling the plays when our guy Russell Wilson was in town. Like, he was doing that. So, I mean, Russell Wilson, very successful quarterback. So I would love to see him be more creative. It's not like I don't think he has the capability to do it. I think maybe he's just doing it because he knows what he has for his team and like that's the best that he can do. I don't know. I don't want to believe that, but maybe that's the case as well. But it's just we've just seen so many repetitive things this year as Badger fans, in my opinion, with what's getting called. And in order to be great, I think we definitely need to spice things up in the playbook.
All right, you guys ready for me to stir the pot?
All right.
All right, so it happened, I don't know, only 1,000 times that people were asking for Paul Chryst to be fired and replaced with Jim Leonhard. Do you think that it's possible that Jim Leonhard turned down the defensive coordinator position with the Packers with the thought that he would be the eventual head coach of the Badgers?
Yes.
100%.
Yes. And I think he will stay there as long as it needed, honestly. That's not to say that Paul Chryst is a terrible coach or anything by any means, but I think Jim Leonhard just loves, Wisconsin so much too, just as being a former All-American alum. I mean, I think this is definitely his job when Chryst is done. And I don't think we're not going to be firing Chryst anytime soon or anything like that, in my opinion. But no, I 100% firmly believe that, Tyler, that he's the guy that's next in line to take that. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
Jake, thoughts?
I'm reading these comments by Rushman over here. I don't think we're looking at Paul Chryst. Paul Chryst is a good coach, but if you're talking a coach that's like elite or anything like that, he's not that. We're not talking about going to just a passing game either. I do want rushing to be the premier of the offense, but I wouldn't mind
use the run to set up the pass, not vice versa.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a double move every once in a while.
And I want play action, please.
Yeah, I mean,
Wisconsin could you don't even have to open up the passing game. Open up the play action game.
Yeah.
And there's your offensive creativity right there. You could murder with play action at Wisconsin.
Oh, 100%. I do think that he turned that down because he just loves the University of Wisconsin. That's really what I believe. I don't think he was scared of the opportunity or anything like that. And I don't think that we're going to be firing Paul Chryst anytime soon. He's a good coach, like I said. He can keep us competitive and he can keep us above 500 and he knows how to win games. He's been a coach for a long time, been in a lot of situations. So I think he's a good coach. I think we have a good thing going with Leonhard on the DC. You let him run the defense and you let Paul Chryst run the offense. But, I just want a little bit more. I'm not asking for a million things. I just want a little bit more. So, with that being said, it is what it is. But I don't know. I'm not happy with them right now. I can't believe they lost to Axe, dude. I really can't.
Yeah, that has such a sour taste in my mouth. But...
It does, man. I mean, and for a team that looked like, and I was talking and acting like this team really had, something special going on this year. And I thought they had a chance to really show out, if they win this game. I thought they had a chance against the Michigan team in a neutral site. And, the way that Braylon Allen was playing and, Mertz was stacking good starts on top of good starts. And the defense was the defense. I really thought we had a chance. But on that turf, I don't know if I want to see the Michigan passing game. I'll be honest with you. With our corner, that'd been tough.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys want to say anything else about Badger basketball before Jake and I talk about the Bucks?
I'm just going to say that they are breaking out the new jerseys on Saturday against Marquette. So I'm excited for that. Let's go, Mikey. Let's go.
All right. So I actually I bought one of those jerseys.
You got one already.
Next time you guys invite me on the show, I will rep it for you.
You're gonna be wearing it before the players do.
If it gets here in a timely manner. I don't think it gets here till I don't know. They told me December 8th or something like that. So I'll rep it next time. I'm invited back to the show. I thought they were dope as hell. So looking forward to them repping that. As far as the team goes, we got a big game tonight against Georgia Tech on the road. Things that I'm looking for productivity. Besides Johnny Davis, I'd like to see a guy like Steven Crowell get going. I think he's got a lot of potential. That I'm really looking forward to him, see what he can do, because we are going to need him throughout the season, plain and simple. Another guy that I think we should be looking out for here soon, to my understanding, he should be back in the rotation soon, is Jacoby Neath. interested to see how much he's going to fit into the rotation once he gets back. So that's just two things just to look out for. And yeah, we got a big one tonight. And then obviously in-state showdown on Saturday, which a lot of bragging rights on the line.
We got to get that one back from last year.
Oh, we need that badly. We got to take down Shaka this weekend.
I like Shaka Smart from Marquette. I think that was a really great hire.
It was. There's no argument there for sure.
All right. Do you guys want to say anything else Badger related? I took down everybody's grades, so I will post our consensus. I'll average them all out and see what the three of us came up with a consensus for how the Badgers did as a whole. But anything else you guys want to say about the Badgers?
No, sir.
I should do it.
All right, Mike. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your Badger insights. So we'll definitely have you back to talk about Badgers basketball.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Take care.
Hey, Rush, man, we still got Bucks, buddy. My girlfriend's starting to bitch at me, too.
All right, we still got to talk about the Bucks. I got some good stuff about the Bucks. All right, let's talk about the Bucks. So let's talk about the games. We're going to talk about DeMarcus Cousins. So I don't know. Do you want me to just run through the games and then we'll talk about everything else?
Yeah, I'll run through them real quick.
All right. Here we go. Bucks Pistons got a 114-93 win. Their 12th straight win over the Pistons. They did not trail in that game. They finished well in the second half. Giannis 33-7-5, 12 of 17 on field goals, added 2 blocks and 2 steals. Bobby Portis 28 points and 10 rebounds. It was 6 for 7 on threes. Bobby was making it rain. He started hot and stayed hot.
Crazy in the third quarter, bro.
Drew Holiday, we talked about him last week, wanting Drew Holiday to get hot, and he got hot. So I'm going to talk about Drew Holiday a little bit more later. Drew Holiday, 22, 8 and 6. George Hill had 4 offensive rebounds in this game, so that was nice to see. First play of the game, Giannis got a catch on the elbow, turned, looked at Drew. Drew cut back door for a dunk. They really set the tone for the game. There was one play where Chris Middleton it was kind of like a broken play, but Chris Middleton ended up with the ball at like Detroit's 3-point line, and he threw a bounce pass that went right into Grayson Allen's hands. He turned and threw a lob to Giannis for a dunk. Something that doesn't show up. That would be like a hockey assist for Chris Middleton, but
yeah, you got the steal and everything, man. That was crazy.
Middleton, he made some really nice passes in this game. The Bucks started off up 14-0. There was one play, Chris Middleton drove baseline, and a lot of times you see that straight across to the other corner pass. Detroit took that away. He used a left-hand wraparound pass to Bobby Portis at like the elbow extended, and he knocked in a 3. So, it was credit to Middleton for his staying active when he's not shooting as well. Giannis had the finger roll on full display. He was using it everywhere. Like I mentioned, Bobby stayed hot, started hot. I know you and I were texting at one point. Bobby Portis got double teamed, and instead of passing out of it right away, he spun baseline and cashed like a 20-foot jumper. Like Bobby was feeling himself in this game.
He was definitely comfortable. He was way more comfortable on this team than last year, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Oh man. Drew Holiday started hitting some mid-range, hit a couple threes. Giannis, Middleton, Bobby Portis, Drew Holiday, and Pat Connaughton, who was 3 for 5 on threes, had 11 and 7, accounted for 105 of the Bucks' 114 points.
Oh.
And this was Bobby Portis' 4th straight double-double, tied his career high. Anything you want to say about the Bucks Pistons game?
We were just a better team the entire night. We shot better. We rebounded better. The ball movement was phenomenal. I wanted to highlight that play that you're talking about because that was freaking nuts, dude. Middleton gets the steal. It goes to Bobby. He gives it right back to Middleton. Sweet bounce pass, and then the lob up Giannis. That was sick. Giannis is just a bad man.
Yeah.
He's a bad dude. He scores in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He's doing catches, shoot threes, catches, shoot mid-rangers. He's going to pull up off the dribble middies and threes. Like, he is a bad dude. So, the Bucks are just firing on all cylinders. The Pistons are just not good. So we got that going for us. But, yeah, total effort last Wednesday.
All right, so Bucks Nuggets on Saturday night was a really good back and forth game. I give credit to the Nuggets for not giving up without a bunch of their players. All starters and Pat Connaughton were in double figures. Jeff Green cannot defend Giannis, so obviously the Nets found that out last year, and the Nuggets found it out again. Giannis finished 24, 13, and 7. He was 10 of 13 on field goals. Chris Middleton had a bounce-back game. He had 17, 5, and 7. Bobby Portis' double-double streak came to an end. He had 11 and 8. Drew Holiday stayed hot, 16, 5, and 6. Grayson Allen added 10 points, and Pat Connaughton added 20 points as 4 for 5 on threes. It was kind of weird. Both teams ran some zone at times, and it didn't really work for either team, but Middleton closed out the first half to get the lead back up to double digits. The Nuggets kept kind of closing it, and the Bucks kept pushing it up. That's pretty much the story of the game. Drew Holiday hit a dirty spinning baseline fadeaway jump shot. Like Drew Holiday's mid-range game looks like Chris Middleton's mid-range game, like the last few weeks.
Yeah, Drew Holiday's a bad dude.
He looks more comfortable than he did last year too.
Yeah, Drew Holiday is truly a second option guy, but he's just the third option on this team, which is absolutely insane.
And it works great for having him as a second option at times, when Middleton has his bad games.
Yep.
The Bucks, they played well. The third quarter, the lead got down to, I think it got down to 4 at one point, and they pushed it back up into double digits all the way up to like 18 at one point, I think. Denver started out really hot in the beginning of that third quarter from the three-point line, but Giannis hit not one, but 2 really, really tough post fades in this game. Both, like the shot clock was winding down. He was being guarded by Aaron Gordon, who's actually taking a pretty big step forward as a defender. And Giannis was kind of in a position where he didn't have anywhere to go with the ball, and he's standing in the paint with the ball, and obviously you only get to be in there for 3 seconds, and hit a pair of really tough post fades. That, to me, is something where you look at it and you say, Giannis can't be a closer, and then he needs Middleton to be his closer. That's the kind of thing that kind of ends that narrative.
Oh, yeah. If he gets that consistently, it's a wrap. Absolutely a wrap, dude.
Middleton went over 10,000 career points in this game, and the Bucks dominated the rebounding battle. They won 44-31 in the rebounding. 2 bad things from this game were the turnovers, 19 turnovers. That's way too many. And 12 for 20 from the free throw line. I see Kevin Johnson. I see you in here. We're going to talk about DeMarcus Cousins right after we get this Pacers game wrapped up.
Sir.
You want to say anything about the Nuggets game, Jake?
I'm going to say a couple things. First of all, the Bucks shot 63% in this game. That's freaking stupid. So you look at the Nuggets rebounding, and you're like, damn, only 31. Well, you don't get a lot of rebounding opportunities when the other team's making everything.
Yeah.
The other thing, I was kind of impressed with Denver on this. They had 6 different players with at least 2 assists. That's impressive. That means they're moving the ball.
Yep.
Everybody's moving the ball. Everybody's touching it, and everybody's engaged. I actually like Denver when they're fully healthy. They're a very, very good team. So 6 different players with 2+ assists is pretty good. And they made 17 threes. So they're a team that can shoot. Denver's a good team. Good. This was a good win for us, even with the injuries that they had. We have injuries ourselves. We weren't able to use injuries as an excuse to why we started bad. So why would anybody else be allowed to? Just a good overall win. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with Holiday and Middleton playing well, and Giannis is going to Giannis. I mean, it is what it is. So Pat Connaughton, man, I'm watching him ball, and I'm like, that's Wisco Fanatics' favorite player.
Yes, I love some Pat Connaughton.
Yes, sir. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it was just a good win, and they moved on to the Pacers on Sunday.
Yes. So this game happened simultaneously with the Packer game, so I had to watch this one after that. They beat the Pacers 118-100. Basically everything we just said, that Giannis is Giannis, Middleton and Holiday are contributing. Giannis at 26, 13, and 3, 4 offensive rebounds. Drew Holiday's getting hot, staying hot. We'll see if he can stay hot tonight. 23, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. Bobby Portis had 15 points, 6 assists. Chris Middleton, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. These guys are doing everything. This team looks like a defending champion team.
Yes,
Pat Connaughton, 14 and 7. George Hill, 13 points and 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 6 for 6 on the free throw line. So I just mentioned free throws being something in the Nuggets game. George Hill came in and knocked down all of them.
I was going to talk about free throws in both games and how they shot like insanely good against the Pacers.
And the 3-point shooting is the opposite. So they had a bad 3-point shooting game, and then they shot well in their free throws. And they cut the turnovers down a little bit. They're at their 13 turnovers in the Pacers game. That's a really, really average number. I'd really, really like to see the Bucks become an elite team as far as turnovers go. The Bucks do share the ball well, and they have 3 guys that all can attract a lot of offensive attention and then kick out to open guys. That's the Bucks style of play. So this team's going to have some turnovers because they share the ball a lot. So a couple things I want to say is Drew Holiday had 11 of his 23 points in the third quarter. They made life very hard for Domantas Sabonis. He finished 1 for 8 in this game.
And Brogdon didn't play well either, to be honest with you.
I will say Chris Duarte is going to be a nice player for them. Karis LeVert is solid. Indiana cut the lead to 54-53, and then they pushed the lead back to double digits for the rest of the game, using the big 3 and Bobby Portis. So that's the Bucks. That's what they're going to do. Pat Connaughton, who I want to talk about, he hit a really, really nice contested 3. He's making a lot of open 3s late in the game. The shot clock was down to like 2 seconds, and he had a hand in his face, and he still cashed the 3. So I want to talk about Pat Connaughton a little bit after this, but did you want to say anything about the Pacers game before we start talking about the other news?
Well, seeing the 27 assists, that's always nice to see. And the Bucks have been a very good rebounding team, the last couple of weeks. And if you can't tell, rebounding leads the wins. So the Bucks, they started a little small.
It's a hint.
Out and, yeah, I know. But they've been really good at rebounding. They shot well. I actually pointed out in my notes about Hill and Pat Connaughton. Hill with 13 and Connaughton with 14 off the bench. That's something that you're going to need, when you play better teams. And they held Indiana to a pretty poor shooting percentage. And when this team wants to, the championship level teams, they could turn it on defense. When they need to, you can't always just lean on offense. They could turn it up on defense and be like, all right, time to dig in.
Why the Nets didn't win the series last year.
Yeah, 100%. So with that being said, the Bucks are just on fire, and they're going to be looking for another win. Today, actually, they're going to continue the Wednesday tradition of wearing their City Edition jerseys, which I love looking at. So with that being said, let's get into these questions that Tyler did not tell me about and I'm unprepared for.
It's not questions. It's just stuff we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about DeMarcus Cousins first because we had somebody comment about it already. So let's talk about DeMarcus Cousins. What are your initial thoughts? And then I'm going to throw some stats and stuff that I'm thinking about DeMarcus Cousins.
Okay, so my initial thoughts is size. Like that. I like that a lot. Even when Brook goes out, we can stay big. Yep. He's an experienced veteran. He's been an all-star. He's been in the playoffs. He's been in every situation. The thing that I think people don't really give him enough credit for is, he's not a great defender, but he's a good enough defender. He can rebound the ball. And on offense, he's actually a very, very good passer.
Yes, I was hoping you were going to say that. Good job.
So you can run your offense through him, really, for short spurts, a couple minutes at a time. You just can't run him out because, that's what I think happened the last couple of years is he got injured, and then teams were like, oh, this is DeMarcus Cousins, so let's run him into the ground. You have to ease these guys back in. And on a team like the Bucks, who take a cautious approach to this stuff anyways, they're going to ease him in. They'll give him rest when he needs rest, ask how he's feeling. And I think the DeMarcus signing is going to be huge.
So he's probably going to play tonight. He started practicing yesterday, so I'm only really expecting 10 or 15 minutes a game out of him. He's not going to be paying Brook Lopez 25, 28 minutes a game. And, some of the main things, Jake already touched on the passing. He's actually become a good three-point shooter since 2016-2017 season. He's shooting 34.7% on threes. That's not crazy amount, but that's in the Brook Lopez range of just respectable enough that you can't stand in the paint while he's out there. So we're taking a chance on signing a guy who's got a similar skill set to Brook, at least on the offensive end, but he's a better passer. And then on the defensive end, he's just big. He can play center against a guy like Dwight Howard. You don't have to worry about him getting mixed up by Dwight Howard. You can use him at times against a guy like Bam Adebayo, a guy like Andre Drummond. Those kind of guys. I don't think he'd be as good against a Joel Embiid who can take him away from the basket a little bit. But what it does is it doesn't mean that Giannis and Bobby have to play center all game.
Yeah.
Save Philadelphia, for example. If Giannis doesn't have to play center against Philadelphia, that's Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid that he doesn't have to guard for 35 minutes. Those two, they have their skill sets, but those two are strong as hell. Giannis is also strong as hell, but this for 35 minutes that's wear and tear on the body. So just having DeMarcus Cousins, like Jake said, size, that takes workload off of Giannis, even if it's only for 5 minutes at a time. So that's why I'm excited for DeMarcus Cousins, and he has improved as a three-point shooter. So Jake's going to step out for a second here, and I just want to throw some things out. Kevin, to answer your comment, do you think he's going to be a step up from losing PJ Tucker? They're really different player types, whereas PJ Tucker was all defense. You could put him 1 through 5. And then, a liability on offense. I think DeMarcus Cousins he gives a different skill set. He gives size on defense and then some rebounding. And then on offense, he allows you to keep your floor spacing, which is a big thing for Giannis. So I don't think he's a PJ Tucker replacement, but I do think, that role player type of player could be the type of thing we get from PJ Tucker. So I did mention before, the Drew Holiday is hot. I want to save some of these things for Jake when he gets back. But Drew Holiday in the last 4 games is averaging just under 20 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, and 6 assists. He talked about it in one of the post games about how it's fun having everybody contributing. So this team is really starting to gel well while they're on their 7-game win streak. And I think it's going to continue. The Bucks are now back within 2 games of the number 1 seed, which is something we don't really think they care about. But, they're back up in the top of the East. I do think the Bulls are more pretenders than contenders. And, something I wanted to talk about with Jake is Giannis did an interview with The Athletic this past week. And he talked about playing the right way as opposed to just constantly relying on his physicality. So in this interview with The Athletic that Giannis did, he talked about how many conversations he's had with Coach Bud about just not trying to kill himself worrying about wins and losses, especially when guys like Middleton and Drew and Brook are out. And, he's talking about playing the right way and not worrying about the wins and losses. This is something we talked about back in January, February, March of last year, where we were talking about context instead of wins and losses, because we knew that the Bucks were going to hang around in the East anyways. And what Giannis talked about is how he's feeling better after games because he's not putting so much, forced contact on himself. Now, I mentioned that play, the opening play in the Detroit game, for a reason, because something that Budenholzer has been talking with Giannis about, and this is where I'm glad we have Coach Bud still, is he's helping Giannis in his development, is having plays basically preset in your mind. And this is the next step for Giannis. Last year, we talked about Giannis taking a next step as a leader. And this is where Giannis is taking the next step from being, the amazing physical specimen and now putting more basketball IQ on top of that. And that first play in Detroit is a perfect example because Giannis isn't going into his man, pushing to get space. Giannis walked with his head down over to the elbow, turned, got the ball, and then he pivoted, and Drew Holiday was cutting back door. Giannis talked about that play, about he's slowing down, taking a picture. That is what he's talking about, and that's a mentality he's gotten, is seeing a play before it happens. And that's the basketball IQ thing. That's the stuff that people talk about with LeBron James. That he's he's 1,000 IQ. You know, if this guy does this, this is where he's going. That's the kind of stuff that Budenholzer is trying to get Giannis to work on. And that play in Detroit was one of the examples that Giannis gave of that, of seeing those plays before they happen and not killing himself to get into those spots. So I wanted to throw that out there, you know, that Giannis talked about that, and that's his next step, is working on his basketball IQ. You know, we're seeing his improved jump shot. We know he's improved as a leader. So now that basketball IQ stuff, that's his next step. So, Jake, the question came in, do you think that DeMarcus Cousins is a step up from losing PJ Tucker?
Okay, so I've actually had a couple discussions about this. I do not think that he can fully replace Tucker. Tucker was a guy that could play down low and on the perimeter. DeMarcus Cousins isn't going out there guarding Kevin Durant. That's not what he's going to do. But what he does bring is that same toughness aspect, which is where the comparison comes from. When you look at DeMarcus Cousins, you're like, that's a rough rider. That's a guy I do not want to F with. That's a guy I do not want to fight with. And you feel that same way about PJ Tucker. He doesn't get pushed around. He don't get punked. You know, he's one of those guys, like, when you're on his team, you all, you know, put your chest out. You know, he even talked about it in the, you know, celebration, about talking about letting the dog out in some of these guys, because we already had dogs. Now they're dogs established. And now you bring in another dog in DeMarcus Cousins and got a room full of dogs again. So we have championship heart, championship mentality, and DeMarcus Cousins has been in locker rooms like this, which is another reason. You know, I said he's a vet. He's been in the playoffs. He understands what it takes. Even though he hasn't won a ring, he's been on teams. He knows what it's like to be in the playoffs and have the mentality of that grind. And, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I like the PJ Tucker. You know, I love PJ Tucker, but I really love the DeMarcus Cousins signing. I think it's going to be nothing but good things. You know, you can always stay big now. You can slide Bobby over to that 4 spot. You can run DeMarcus Cousins, and you can still spread the floor. We talked about that already. So that's something that's going to be absolutely huge. That's what we talked about with Tucker, too. He sits in that corner, he still spreads the floor on offense. So you're not really losing anything. He'll have the same impact. But the thing about Cousins that I really, really like is he can go back to the basket. You know, you could throw the ball down to him against a backup big or even a starter. He could figure out a way to score. It's the same thing, same way we feel about Brook Lopez. Sure, he can shoot the 3, but Brook Lopez can go down low, and you don't want to foul him because he's a good free throw shooter.
He did, yeah.
It's the same thing with DeMarcus Cousins. He's a good free throw shooter. He's got good touch on that midi. He's got a good 3-point touch. He can go down low, and he could bust your ass down.
That happened actually towards the end of last season, that they were using Brook Lopez in the post more, and it was, you know, he had a couple of games where he was in double-digit points, and we felt that Brook Lopez was playing his best basketball going into the postseason.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about Cousins too. Cousins can have that same aspect on a limited minute role, and that's something I'm all for, man. You know, and did you hear that rumor about John Wall?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I like it, but I don't want to talk a whole lot about it until he gets bought out.
Yeah.
Because until it happens, I mean, like, there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to wait to unpack it until we actually know that it's a possibility.
I agree.
So there's a couple things that I want to throw out there. These two kind of go together, but they're on a 7-game win streak since Chris Middleton came back, and they're still undefeated when the big three all play. 21 games this year. Giannis has led the Bucks in scoring in 17 of them and in rebounds in 16 of them. And he missed one game.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I want to say is Wisco Fanatics' favorite player, Pat Connaughton, is shooting 41.4% on threes this season. Let it fly, Pat Connaughton. I feel like it's going in every time.
He's a sniper, buddy. He's definitely a sniper.
People thought we overpaid for him when we gave him 3 years, $15 million.
I know, I remember that. And I was just like, and then he leads the finals in 3-point makes, and now he's doing it. Like, he's a baller, dude. He does everything, all the little things and big things.
You want me to blow your mind real quick?
Yes, sir.
Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, and Dante DiVincenzo combined make less than Joe Harris and Duncan Robinson individually.
Joe Harris is not that good, bro. Like, he's all right, and Duncan Robinson's all right, but none of them play defense like the three players you mentioned. I'll tell you that right now. That's pretty sad. But
those three together make 14.1 million. Joe Harris makes 17.4, and Duncan Robinson makes 15.6.
Jesus, see, that's where you take people that like to win more than they like money, and we got three of them,
and guys that know their role. That's
The Bucks are set up to be competitive for a long time, man.
Like at least another 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah, championship window is like this.
It's wide open. Like last year's win, like that blew the doors off, and it's. I mean, as far as health is concerned, Lopez did say he's targeting a return. He didn't say what it was, but he said he has a target in mind. And then Dante DiVincenzo. And adding DeMarcus Cousins now, this is even disregarding DeMarcus Cousins, even if it doesn't work out. The Bucks go like 9 deep.
Yeah.
So we can get into a playoff situation where, you can have Dante, Pat, and Grayson Allen just constantly rotating, and you never get relief at that shooting guard position. Ever.
And James Harden, he's gotten a little better the last couple of weeks, but he's still not. He's not going to be the 50 point.
He has to play as a facilitator now and not a primary offensive player.
He's not a scorer anymore.
He's not, because he's not getting 20 free throws a game anymore.
You know who they miss? Kyrie Irving would still be a scorer. I'll tell you that right now. He's a bucket. So if Kyrie comes back this year, I'd be worried about the Nets. If Kyrie's not on that team, Bucks can beat the Nets. That's truthfully honest. I still think we could beat them with Kyrie.
They have no depth, dude.
Yeah, without Kyrie, they're going to get destroyed. And it was funny that everybody was like, "Oh, the Nets are so deep, blah blah blah, this, blah blah."
They're not.
Blah that. But the Bucks are adding DeMarcus Cousins and maybe John Wall, and holy shit, we look deep now because George Hill can do his stuff. If we get anything on John Wall, Pat Connaughton, I mean, you mentioned all the shooting guards, and then I'm not even mentioning Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, or Giannis. I mean, this team is, and they won the title last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this Bucks team is set up, man. The East really runs through us. That's how I feel. And
honestly, I really believe the Bulls will be probably around that 5 seed is what I'm thinking for the Bulls.
Yeah.
For me, I think the NBA really runs through the Bucks. I mean, Phoenix and Golden State are really high up in the standings, and Phoenix has a nice win streak going, but until the Bucks and Phoenix play each other and DeAndre Ayton shows that he can defend better, I'm not scared of Phoenix. Golden State looks pretty good. Their shooting is pretty good, but they don't really have a ton of interior defense either.
I mean, Draymond is their interior defense. And you really want a 6'6" guy guarding a 7-foot guy? Because I don't either.
How about 3 7-foot guys? One of whom can handle the ball really well and dunk on people from everywhere.
Yeah, I meant primarily stopping Giannis because that's who he's going to check.
Yeah.
He's going to be on Giannis. But the thing about the Bucks is Middleton, he can go off for 40. Drew Holiday is going to absolutely abuse Steph Curry. Curry's going to abuse Holiday on the other end too. That's an even matchup. That's a wash.
Yep. And that's, and then you're looking at Chris Middleton versus Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, I'm taking Middleton in that.
Oh.
Unless Wiggins just has one of those games.
Yikes.
I mean, the Bucks are just a deeper team. Gary Payton is playing well over there.
Jordan Poole is a most improved candidate.
They got a Wisconsin, Milwaukee native, Jordan Poole over there. So, I mean, he's been balling. So, I mean, Golden State's nice. It might end up being Golden State versus the Bucks. Man.
That would be an awesome finals.
That'd be a legit, dude. Giannis dunking everything, and you got Curry shooting from the parking lot, dude. Tell me, what more do you want?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, man. Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love it.
All right, Kevin, to talk about your John Wall thing, stay tuned. If it happens, we will definitely talk about it. But, Jake, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about today, but I'm ready to go and turn the Bucks game on.
I am too. I'll answer that question real quick. I do think that John Wall will be a nice fit. The Bucks have a great system. We have a lot of winning players, that, we're a good tight-knit group. Giannis is a great leader. Who would I get rid of? That I would have to look into. It definitely wouldn't be George Hill because he's been pretty damn good for us this year. He held the ship down when Drew Holiday was, getting, injured and getting his feet wet. So I think George Hill has definitely been very good. So we'll have to see.
There's a bunch of two-way player guys on the team. Like they just signed Devante Smart to a two-way contract. Mamu's a two-way guy. Semi Ojeleye, if he's hurt, when he comes back, if he doesn't find his role, they could cut Semi Ojeleye. They could cut Rodney Hood. I'm surprised they haven't already.
Oh my God, yeah, that's probably the guy.
So there's plenty of options there if John Wall becomes a free agent to free up some spots there. So
100%.
All right, man. If you don't have anything else,
Bucks and 6, baby.
All right, let's go watch this Bucks game and the Badgers.
All right, later, brother.
All right, see you next week.